The narrator recalls an obsession with resetting starting stats in games, a process known as a reset marathon. A question arises regarding the specific meaning of that term. The dark-haired man lies in a VR capsule, explaining that re-rolling involves forced game exits using the emergency button. In the game world of Graduate from the Academy by Luck, a red-haired warrior faces a monster, proving that starting stats are vital for survival. Headlines warn of fatal risks from excessive re-rolling, but the dark-haired man remains unconcerned by the news. A firm click sounds as he presses the red emergency button on his console. Electricity surges through the dark-haired man as he admits he has performed this reset over 10,000 times. A brown-haired woman slams her glass down, shouting a question about his sanity. She warns him that his actions could be lethal, but he dismisses her concerns with a smile. He explains his preference for high-damage muscular male characters, but she remains skeptical of his motives. The woman questions if he truly disregards a character's appearance as long as their combat power is high. Digital energy crackles as an ominous voice tells him that he brought this situation upon himself. The man reacts with intense shock as the digital interface around him begins to malfunction. The voice confirms that he has died despite the previous warnings given to him. Suddenly, a sharp gasp sounds as blue eyes fly open in a new body. A blonde girl sits up in a rustic bed, looking around the unfamiliar room in confusion. Sunlight streams through a window as she realizes with shock that she did not actually die. A system window for a tutorial event appears, startling the blonde girl as it announces a letter from her father. She focuses on a wrapped gift on the side table, wondering what her father has provided for her journey. The blonde girl smiles as she realizes she has been transported into the very game she used to play. She looks around the room with a look of stunned disbelief at her new reality. The small blonde girl reaches for the gift labeled from her father with a determined expression. She finds a note addressed to her by the name Okodi. She repeats the strange name with a look of deep skepticism. A sense of familiarity washes over her as she holds the red package in her hands. Realization hits her like a sudden bolt of lightning. She connects her previous boast about not dying to her new name and wonders about her identity. She scratches her head in frustration, lamenting her reincarnation into such a luck-based game after playing it for thousands of hours. Shaking her head, she reconsidered that luck might be better than games requiring brute strength. An infographic details that physical ability, brain power, and luck are all required to succeed in this world. She acknowledges that re-rolling was her only method to influence the outcomes of the game. The blonde girl attempts to summon game menus by shouting commands for saving, quitting, and status windows. She stands awkwardly in the quiet room, realizing there is no game interface in this reality. She collapses in despair, wishing she had been reincarnated as one of the muscular men she typically played. A memory surfaces of the brown-haired woman asking if a character's helpless appearance mattered. The blonde girl looks down, remembering that she had once agreed character appearance was irrelevant. She turns her attention to a large bag, identifying it as an allowance from her father. She notes how her current circumstances are following the game's established plot almost perfectly. The narration explains that the tutorial event involves a random assignment of the father's profession. Different cards represent possible roles like a farmer or hunter, which dictate the difficulty of the story. She understands that failure in this world results in a permanent death ending. Surviving in this environment requires an immense amount of initial good fortune. Nervous, the blonde girl bites her finger while contemplating the odds of her success. She prays that she has not been made an orphan as she reaches for the heavy bag. Her eyes widen with hope as she feels the unexpected weight of the container. A golden glow fills the room as she opens the bag to reveal a pile of coins. Stars appear in her eyes as she discovers 100 gold coins, confirming her father is a noble. She cheers with joy, realizing she has secured a ticket to a guaranteed happy ending. With a happy hum, she prepares to open the next gift on the table. A collection of expensive jewelry and artifacts appears, confirming her father's high status and incredible support. The blonde girl looks around, bewildered. Her attention is taken by a soft crinkle as she examines the contents. The blonde girl exclaims in surprise that she received 2 items. A document is dated for the day of the Academy entrance exam application. The blonde girl looks at the brief letter with skepticism, questioning if that is truly the extent of it. She sweats nervously while wondering if a normal father's letter should be so devoid of affection. Her expression brightens into a wide grin. She decides that as long as the money is in her pouch, she is satisfied. A light toss sounds as she discards the letter, whistling a happy tune while clutching her gold. She recalls how avoiding noble family drama means fewer exclusive father-daughter quests from her high-status father. The blonde girl closes her eyes contentedly, admitting she would actually prefer a distant relationship. She holds up a silver whistle, declaring it is time to try Avenetum. The blonde girl tightly grips a small black box and her heavy coin pouch. A sharp inhale sounds as she realizes the whistle is a rare network item that almost never drops in the game, suspecting it must be at least S rank. She summons a specialized NPC butler intended to automatically supply necessities and manage her loot. A heavy creak sounds as an ornate, massive door manifests out of thin air. A firm thump of footsteps echoes as a man asks if he has been called. A tall, dark-haired man in a formal suit bows, addressing her as Miss, while she stands holding the whistle that summoned him. The dark-haired butler stands tall, wearing a monocle and a thick mustache. The blonde girl looks at him with a calculating, curious smile. The dark-haired butler repeats his question, asking if she called for him. The blonde girl asks for his name, though she privately notes that he dresses like a proper butler, but something feels off. The dark-haired butler's eyes glow with a purple light as he introduces himself as Jonah Waihemhai, prompting her to think he looks more like a mafia member. She looks at his nameplate, Jonah Waihemhai, and realizes with shock that the naming choice is incredibly strange. The blonde girl is visibly shaken as she wonders if Jonah's name implies he is super dangerous. She sighs and rubs her forehead, remembering that this game is famous for its bizarre naming choices. The butler maintains a stoic, silent presence. Panicked, the blonde girl waves her hands and explains she only wanted a hand mirror. She smiles nervously, reconsidering that her own strange name might actually be a sign of good luck since it implies she won't die. She continues to worry about how a butler could have a name meaning super dangerous. A sharp clack sounds as the butler reaches into his jacket, while she tries to convince herself a butler would never kill their master. The blonde girl flinches as Jonah suddenly presents a hand mirror to her. A magical shimmer sounds as he formally offers the glowing mirror, leaving the blonde girl stunned. She takes the ornate mirror with an awkward look as a heavy silence fills the room. The blonde girl's hands tremble as she holds the mirror. Jonah watches her with a sharp, golden-eyed gaze. Looking in the mirror, she sees flowers blooming around her reflection and notes how young she looks, then starts to say something to the butler.
Jonah explains that she would know from the letter that her master wants her to enter the academy.
The blonde girl tilts her head in confusion, asking if her father is Jonah's master, while Jonah seems taken aback by her use of the word papa.
Jonah confirms that her master has already prepared training for her upcoming entrance exam.
He gestures toward a dusty, cobweb-covered corner, suggesting it is a safer place and mentioning the presence of a full-length mirror. The blonde girl bites her finger while contemplating how run down her room is for a noble's daughter. A quick glance sounds as Jonah looks at her with a glint of pity in his eyes. She frantically shouts for him to stop talking, realizing what he is thinking. Jonah places a hand on his chest and closes his eyes, making the blonde girl realize he actually feels sorry for her. Outside the large wooden mansion, the blonde girl's voice rings out as she insists things aren't what they seem, but Jonah tells her to simply trust him. The training ground stands ready with weapon racks and armor. Now wearing a green hoodie, the blonde girl follows Jonah into the training area. She recalls the brutal difficulty for beginners, noting that over 90% of players fail the first mission of the game if they don't prepare. Images of former party members appear as she reflects on how random chance NPCs can often betray the player. She remembers the crushing despair she felt when an entire party once betrayed her during a miracle chance event. Looking around the hall, she compliments the nice facilities, while Jonah explains that the master has people manage the area every year for the entrance exam. The blonde girl asks if this happens every year, causing the dark-haired butler to stammer in surprise. Jonah rubs his chin thoughtfully while the blonde girl urgently asks where the mirror is located. The butler points toward a nearby wooden door and explains the mirror is in the next room, making the blonde girl feel relieved. Jonah's monocle flashes with an ominous light as a narration compares his gaze to a hitman encountering an unnecessary witness. Standing before her reflection, the blonde girl flexes her small arms with a look of pure confusion. A system caption identifies her as a skinny kid, leaving the blonde girl feeling disappointed by her lack of muscle. She covers her face with her hand, noting that although she is small, her face is quite pretty. The blonde girl looks back at Jonah with a skeptical gaze, thinking that she truly is just a child now. Jonah suggests that she doesn't need to act so tough, noting her strange obsession with mirrors while she continues to examine herself. Frustrated, the blonde girl explains this is her first time as this character, but Jonah interrupts by suggesting they go eat. A happy tune sounds as the blonde girl skips toward the dining hall, while Jonah watches her with a silent, stoic expression. Jonah assumes she has never had a proper meal before, as a system window explains the game's collection feature. An infographic displays various potions and artifacts, explaining that a collection effect increases stats, skill levels, and item drop rates. The blonde girl thinks about how one can never have too many recipes as she happily heads toward the meal. Jonah promises to bring her food shortly as he moves through the quiet, sunlit hallway. Standing alone in the corridor, the blonde girl shouts with excitement. Narration notes that time is as valuable as gold before the entrance exam, while the blonde girl hums a tune and looks around. A sudden realization stops the blonde girl in her tracks as she looks toward the side of the room. She decides that she must level up her skills gradually to avoid bad luck, beginning to crawl across the floor. A system notification announces that she gained stealth experience for hiding under a table for over a minute. Successive pings sound as multiple system windows confirm she gained more stealth experience by hiding in a cabinet, under a chair, and behind a curtain. The blonde girl contemplates the necessity of raising her stealth early to avoid future elite bosses. Jonah peers into a wooden barrel and asks what she is doing, prompting her to awkwardly explain she is scouting hiding spots. A series of arrows point toward the embarrassed blonde girl as Jonah lifts her out of the barrel. She looks at Jonah and insists she isn't weird, but he remains silent before stating that no one said anything. A soft popping sound echoes as the blonde girl reacts with a look of surprise. A lavish spread of steak, bread, and vegetables appears as Jonah invites her to begin the meal. The blonde girl's eyes sparkle as she gleefully prepares the E. A loud munching sound fills the air as she aggressively stuffs a large piece of bread into her mouth. Jonah flinches in shock at her sudden, unrefined eating habits. Narration explains there is no time to savor the taste as her hand reaches for more food. The system details that eating 10 different common grade dishes grants a collection bonus. Rapid chewing sounds as she devours a hot dog, deciding that eating fast is the most efficient way to gain bonuses. A satisfied hum sounds as she thinks about filling her cooking collection quickly, while Jonah stares at her with a bewildered look. Jonah sighs as the blonde girl continues to chew on her meal. Her eyes glow with determination as she announces her intention to begin basic strength training. The blonde girl wipes her mouth with a cloth, acknowledging that this is a growth opportunity reserved for the wealthy. She stands up and demands they go quickly, eager to begin her first training event. Now dressed in a tracksuit, the blonde girl stands on the training grounds with Jonah looming behind her. Jonah instructs her to run as many laps as possible on the track, assuring her that speed doesn't matter yet. The blonde girl assumes a running stance with a confident smirk. A sharp crackle of digital energy sounds as she suddenly clutches her head in pain, wondering what is happening. Jonah rushes to her side to ask if she is okay, and she dismisses it as a simple, quick headache. Jonah looks at her with concern as a system window formally announces the start of her first training event. A system message praises her decision to train properly rather than being a clueless newbie, reminding her it is a paid event. The blonde girl surprises Jonah by holding out a gold coin and a heavy pouch toward him. She remembers how regular players must work part-time jobs to afford such training while seeing a vision of a muscular man working. A light clink sounds as she offers the gold as a training fee, prompting Jonah to ask what she is doing. Jonah bows formally and explains that as her butler, he is not a private instructor and does not require payment. The blonde girl giggles while tucking her money away, while Jonah looks on with a completely flat, unimpressed expression. Crouching low, the blonde girl prepares herself to start before announcing her departure. Jonah watches her dash away with a thoughtful expression, wondering if she has ever experienced kindness that didn't come with strings attached. A steady rhythm of footfalls sounds as the blonde girl sprints across the track, while narration reflects on the harsh reality of a world without status windows, where only hard work reveals one's true abilities. Her breathing remains steady as another rhythmic step sounds, leading her to realize that her new body is surprisingly more resilient than she anticipated. A bright chime rings out as a blue system window confirms she completed 30 laps, granting her a massive training bonus for the coming month. She beams at the notification of her sweet bonus, but Jonah interrupts by telling her she has done enough for now. The sound of measured footsteps echoes as Jonah approaches with a clean towel, firmly telling her she can stop her run. Jonah compliments her impressive stamina, but she dismisses it as a basic requirement for the typical monster hunting and questing she expects to face. A soft hum of surprise escapes Jonah as he looks at her with a renewed sense of interest. Jonah releases a steady breath and informs her that they will now move on to weapon training. He gestures toward a rack filled with spiked clubs, axes, and shields, inviting her to select a weapon she can actually handle. A metallic clack sounds as she draws a sword from its rest while Jonah stands behind her, observing her form with a critical eye. With a quick motion, she reaches for a recurve bow, adding it to her growing pile of equipment. A soft thud sounds as she gathers a sword, a bow, and a glowing staff, cheerfully announcing that she will take all three for her training. Jonah points at the staff and dryly informs her it is a wand, not a club, prompting her to give him a deadpan look while she confirms she knows exactly what it is. Jonah looks at her with a drop of sweat on his brow, asking with genuine curiosity if she actually knows how to use magical gear. A playful sparkle fills the air as she confidently confirms her experience with wands, while chibi versions of her and Jonah debate her history. She wears a smug grin, silently wondering if Jonah is simply overwhelmed by the raw talent she is displaying. The atmosphere suddenly shifts as Jonah leans in close, his gaze sharpening as he asks if she has ever worked dangerous street jobs involving blood or illicit medicine. Caught off guard, she looks away nervously and quickly denies ever having done such things. Jonah looms over her, demanding she answer him honestly, but she continues to frantically insist she is telling the truth. A sharp internal realization strikes her as she recalls the truth about her past experiences. She remembers a past life where she was so desperate for starting cash that she worked as a test subject for drug trials and blood donations. Jonah warns her that learning spells from mages on the street is a dangerous path, but she insists that she didn't actually learn magic that way. The scene softens with blooming flowers as Jonah asks the critical question of where she actually learned to handle a wand. A vision of a powerful, muscular figure holding a wand appears as she claims she learned at the academy, though she privately panics about what to say next before Jonah accepts her answer. A dark energy surges as Jonah adjusts his glove, informing her that he needs to step away for a short while. Jonah tells her to continue her self-training until his return, leaving her calling out to him in confusion as he turns to leave. The large hall falls silent with a lonely gust of wind as she stands alone, wondering where he went. She presses her hands together in a quick prayer, offering a silent apology to a random street mage for the misfortune she is about to cause them. An image of a defeated mage appears with a bold red warning as she justifies her actions, remembering how she was once poisoned by them. She waves off her worries with a cheerful smile, ready to get back to her training. Later that night, Jonah sits alone at a desk illuminated by a single candle, working diligently in the quiet room. A system caption identifies the document as a progress report filled with dense, cryptic text. A rhythmic scratching sounds as Jonah writes, narration revealing that the name Jonah Wiamhe is not his original identity. A memory of a scarred, powerful warrior with glowing eyes looms over Jonah as he writes that he left his former life and name behind long ago.
Jonah rubs the bridge of his nose and contemplates how his master truly has an excellent eye for spotting potential.
He reflects on the girl's extraordinary stamina and natural-born talent for handling weapons, acknowledging that she is a true prodigy. A steady tapping sounds as he pauses his writing, lost in thought. Jonah admits her talent is undeniable, yet he remains troubled by something about her. He recalls finding her hiding inside the glass case of a grandfather clock during her stealth practice. A creak sounds as he remembers her perched high atop a grand chandelier, scouting the room. He thinks back to the moment he found her hiding inside a wooden barrel, where she awkwardly explained she was just checking hiding spots. Jonah considers her unrefined eating habits, noting to himself that he has never encountered such a bizarrely unique young lady. A sudden flinch shakes Jonah as he remembers her chaotic energy during their meal. He recalls her asking if her father was actually his master, a question that clearly struck a chord with him. Looking back at her in her pajamas holding the mirror, Jonah realizes she has completely forgotten the details of the deal they once made. Jonah's monocle flashes with a sharp light as he reacts to a sudden presence. A metallic slide sounds as his hand moves to the hilt of his weapon in the dark room. A sharp ring of steel echoes as Jonah draws his blade, his gaze turning cold and professional. Butler Jonah reacts with a sharp, suspicious look.
Jonah spots the blonde girl sneaking through the hologyte.
The blonde girl carefully navigates the town under the cover of darkness. Hidden in the shadows, Jonah watches her with growing confusion. Jonah asks what on earth she is doing while she mutters that it should be around here. A joyous shout rings out as her eyes light up upon finding a glowing blue object.
Jonah privately wonders if she is simply trying to collect a pretty stone.
She shocks him by suddenly shoving the small stone into her mouth. Jonah is paralyzed by a moment of pure, unfiltered horror. Jonah determines he has something important to report after witnessing her behavior. Jonah lunges forward with a panicked shout, startling the girl. Jonah frantically asks what she is doing right now while a muffled sound escapes her. Jonah orders her to spit it out immediately while she wonders where he appeared from. A deep, heavy gulp confirms that she has already swallowed the object. A system window confirms she used a stat stone to increase a random stat by 1. Information reveals that stat stones appear randomly and their exact locations change by chance. Jonah asks why she swallowed a rock, so she claims it is a secret while knowing NPCs cannot understand stat stones. She realizes Jonah likely thinks she has lost her mind and begun eating rocks at night. She decides this is her only explanation and offers a silent apology to Jonah. She dramatically declares that if she does not eat the stones, she will not be able to survive. Jonah remains frozen and speechless after her dramatic declaration. Jonah promises to provide her with more food starting tomorrow, which catches her by surprise. Jonah pleads with her to never fill her stomach with rocks again, and she agrees to try. She privately resolves to just eat them secretly whenever the butler is not around. Jonah suggests they head back now, and she cheerfully agrees to go. She realizes she will need more secret nighttime training to sneak out effectively. Walking back, she focuses on her need to improve her stealth and balance skills.
Jonah worries her mental issues will make her struggle with people while she wonders about his expression.
Jonah decides he must request an assassin instructor for her sake. The blonde girl sits at the table and wonders what is happening during her meal. She asks why she is so tired lately while Jonah watches her with a sharp glint in his eye. She exerts a great deal of effort just to use her fork. The ceramic plate suddenly shatters under the sheer force of her movements.
She stares at the broken dish in a state of absolute disbelief.
Jonah clears the table while she confirms she is okay and wonders what is happening to her body. She wonders if she is actually much stronger than she initially thought. Jonah remarks that she is frail, leaving her completely stunned. Jonah explains that she is frail because she cannot control her body, which leaves her confused.
She worries her body has a negative trait where she might die if she slacks off.
Jonah begins to personally hand-feed her the meal. A forkful of spaghetti looms closer to her face. A soft, encouraging sound fills the air as he offers the bite. She accepts the bite with a flush while Jonah remains professional. She leans into the frail persona until a sudden, quick knock sounds. Footsteps approach as a voice politely greets Miss Oaknody. A green-haired maid introduces herself as Leaf Life, the girl's new assigned caretaker. The blonde girl reacts with surprise while Jonah checks on her skate. She feels jealous that the maid has a poetic name like Leaf Life while her own name is so literal. She dismisses her internal complaints as nothing while Jonah continues the feeding session. The new maid watches the interaction with a cold and intense gaze. A powerful gust of air follows as the blonde girl swings a wooden practice sword with intensity.
Jonah and the green-haired maid stand in the distance, observing her training session with silent expressions.
Jonah asks if she has revealed her true identity, but Leaf Life clarifies she is simply acting as a secret bodyguard. A bead of sweat rolls down the blonde girl's face as she focuses intently on her next move. Leaf Life reflects on the girl's pure intuition, recalling her own past as an assassin known as Reaped Life. A warm glow surrounds a memory of a younger Leaf Life being taken in by her master. She remembers her former life as a deadly warrior, her name meaning both taken in and taking down enemies. The maid wonders how the young lady could have possibly detected the presence of a hidden assassin.
Leaf Life insists her evaluation isn't over yet, while Jonah acknowledges her point with a quiet word of understanding.
Jonah leaves the final judgment to her, noting how confident she seems in her role. A bright light glints off Jonah's monocle as he cryptically promises that she will soon see the truth. The two servants turn their attention back to the training ground in the bright morning light. Jonah asks why someone with her skills is still doing this work, his gaze fixed on her. Leaf Life questions if his concern stems from the incident involving the previous young lady. A sharp, sudden movement sounds as Jonah cuts her off, silencing her with an authoritative gesture. With a terrifying intensity in his gaze, Jonah commands her to remember her place and focus only on the girl. Leaf Life gasps for air as Jonah steps back, leaving her visibly shaken and clutching her chest. Oblivious to the tension, the blonde girl turns and asks when her official training will begin. Jonah instructs the maid to refrain from interfering with the girl's regular training schedule. Jonah turns and walks away without another word, leaving Leaf Life to bow in silent submission. The maid's eyes glow with a sharp green light as she worries that overprotecting the girl will lead to trouble. Later, wooden practice swords clash as Jonah personally supervises the girl's combat training. Leaf Life stands like a statue in the grand hall, watching the spar with a cold, analytical eye. A chime sounds as a system window appears, announcing her failure to hide after the maid finds her in a laundry basket. The blonde girl hops out of the basket, grumbling about the maid while secretly finding her useful. A soft rustle sounds as she successfully hides in a tree, gaining a point of stealth experience as the maid walks below. A rainbow of colors escapes her mouth as the girl complains about the strange, foul taste of her dinner.
Jonah offers to take the dish away and clean up, but the girl's reaction stops him.
She stops him from taking the plate, insisting she will eat it because he worked so hard on the meal. A warm, emotional energy surrounds Jonah as he is deeply touched by the girl's unexpected kindness. Despite the shivering taste, she continues to eat while Jonah watches her with a strange expression. A chime sounds as she gains poison resistance experience, making her wonder if she was actually being poisoned. Later, Jonah and Leaf Life speak in hushed tones, whispering about the young lady's progress. Leaf Life approaches with a gentle smile, offering a strawberry candy to help cleanse the girl's palate. The girl's eyes sparkle as the maid offers a grape candy as well, creating a cheerful atmosphere. The girl cheers with excitement after the maid promises to bake a batch of special cookies for her later. A dark, smug aura surrounds the girl as she privately gloats about tricking the maid into increasing her food collection rate. Leaf Life is impressed by the girl's 30 poison identification rate, noting she knowingly ate the poisoned meal. A sharp exclamation sounds as Jonah reacts to the news, realizing the girl survived countless poisonings in the streets. Jonah reflects on the city's nasty criminals, suspecting another organization is moving in on their territory. Jonah's gaze turns murderous as he orders Leaf Life to investigate and wipe out any hostile group she finds. The scene shifts to the manor at night under a full moon, with title text floating in the starry sky. A soft creak sounds as the girl peeks out of her door, checking to see if the coast is clear. She steps into the hallway, puzzled by the fact that no one seems to be watching her for once. Moving with practiced ease, she sneaks through the darkened corridors of the mansion. She wears a confident, smug grin, congratulating herself on her professional-level stealth skills. A rhythmic tapping of footsteps sounds as she walks through the quiet cobblestone streets of the city. A sudden, heavy thud sounds as she finds a pile of bodies lying in the shadows, leaving her horrified. She carefully navigates through the dark street, surrounded by signs of a violent struggle. A metallic clink sounds as she discovers a massive pile of gold bars, her eyes widening in disbelief. Examining the aftermath, she observes that the attackers weren't motivated by money and worries about the arrival of an unfamiliar, ominous event. She decides to head home. The moon shines over the mansion. Back inside her room, a soft, relieved sigh escapes her as she leans against the closed door. A sudden, bright flash startles her, and she let out a panicked shout in response to the surprise. The green-haired maid smiles chubby. Leaf Life asks why she is out so late, so the girl nervously stammers that she was just taking a walk before the maid leans in close. The maid notes she smells of blood, prompting the girl to frantically clarify she didn't kill anyone and that they were dead when she arrived, until Leaf Life leads her away with a smile. She lies in bed, completely baffled by the situation. A soft flame flickers as the maid lights a candle, causing the confused girl to whisper her name. Leaf Life claims she merely had a bad dream, which only leaves the young lady feeling more bewildered. As the maid encourages her to sleep easy, the girl feels as though she inhaled sleep gas and wonders if the night's events were truly just a nightmare. Her blue eyes slowly drift shut. Watching her sleep, Leaf Life privately admits her frustration at allowing herself to be followed while the young lady rests. She mutters that Jonah was right. Information reveals that Miss Ochnady possesses the perfect qualities to become a lethal assassin. Leaf Life giggles softly to herself, deciding that the girl requires a very special type of training. A system window chimes to announce that the official training period has concluded. As she eats her pasta, a narration confirms that a full month of intensive training has finally finished. A chime sounds as her boosted training efficiency returns to normal, making the past month feel incredibly tough. Glowing with a faint blue aura, she wonders if she has actually become quite strong. While she eats, Jonah addresses her as Miss Ochnady as she resolves not to let anyone at the academy look down on her skills. Narrations explain that the academy gathers the world's greatest talents and is open to anyone under 20. Jonah mentions the high volume of applicants requires a difficult qualification test, though she admits she is already aware of that detail. She recalls her difficult past in the back alleys while reflecting on how expensive gathering information, traveling, and training would be without support. A map details 3 reachable examiners. 2 are low-level with few tickets, while 1 is high-level with many. Jonah asks which location she wants to visit while she giggles with excitement. With a determined shout, she declares that she is definitely choosing to face the senior examiner. Jonah reviews a large, ancient scroll. Jonah questions if she will regret choosing such a bold difficulty, but she confidently assures him that she is certain. She dismisses the lower and mid-level options as a waste of time, believing they offer no real challenge for a professional like herself. Focused on securing a top-tier ticket, she asks for the specific location of the senior examiner. Jonah reveals the examiner is at the Garden of the Gods, a mountain at 12,500 meters, leaving her awestruck. She reflects on her progress, crediting Jonah for her combat skills and Leaf Life for her improved stealth and infiltration. Jonah reminds her that her wand skills are sealed until she enters the academy, and she cheerfully accepts the restriction. A carriage waits at the gate. Anticipating a difficult challenge at Divine Garden Mountain, she walks toward the exit with a cheerful expression. Jonah asks if she is truly comfortable with such a small amount of luggage, and she gives a firm nod. Blushing with embarrassment, she privately resolves that she absolutely cannot bring a teddy bear or a ribbon headband with her. Leaf Life claps her hands with a joyful smile as the girl offers her a quick word of thanks. Jonah adjusts his monocle and asks if they should finally begin their journey. Miss Ochnady smiles with quiet confidence. Rhythmic hoofbeats sound as the carriage travels through a busy town, and she suggests they take a quick rest. Stretching her limbs, she notes that while games allow for fast travel, real life requires the full journey. Standing in the street, Jonah asks if the current situation is acceptable, but she is puzzled by his question. A soft gesture from Jonah draws her attention toward a nearby shop window. Jonah explains he needs a photo to send in his report to the master, which catches her completely off guard. She mutters about the extreme cost of such items, noting how magic has significantly slowed down scientific progress in this world. Looking at the massive magical camera, she wonders why he would use such an expensive device for a simple report when a portrait would be cheaper. Jonah covers a subtle, polite cough. Close-up of a frilly pink dress being held up. The blonde girl groans after receiving a sharp tap to the head. Jonah and Leaf Life persuade the young lady to wear the outfit just once. A soft tap sounds as she steps forward in a small pink shoe. Glowing with embarrassment, Miss Ochnady begrudgingly wears the frilly dress. A bell rings as they enter the shop and receive a warm welcome. Surprised by the visitors, the shopkeeper looks up from his work. The shopkeeper asks if they are visiting for a family photograph. Jonah requests a quick session while the young lady remains visibly flustered. A moment of silence passes as the photo is taken. A chime sounds as she examines the photo, finding the experience quite strange. A wandering minstrel plays a harp, introducing his next song. The musician dedicated his performance to the blonde girl, much to her surprise. With a wink, the minstrel announces his song titled "The Girl with White Skin." Jonah and Leaf Life emit a terrifying aura, leaving the girl shivering in fear. The horses stop as they reach their destination. The carriage halts as they finally arrive. Narration describes the age requirements for examiners at the Garden of the Gods. Overwhelmed by the massive crowd, the blonde girl wonders if everyone is testing. The minstrel reappears, noting the popularity of the ticket exams while she groans. She questions why he is present despite his age, and he admits he came to watch. The minstrel kneels, confirming his intentions to the blonde girl. A close-up reveals the musician's greasy and overconfident expression. Jonah and Leaf Life loom menacingly as the minstrel offers his support to the girl. Sporting a fresh black eye, the musician decides to head inside first. He skips away while wishing the young lady glory on her path. The blonde girl questions Leaf Life's sudden departure as the maid turns away. Leaf Life calmly explains she has a task to attend to. Worried about being separated, the girl asks to stick together. She clings to Jonah's sleeve, prompting a jealous mutter from the shadows. Jonah warns her against befriending minstrels while the maid leads her way. Jonah scolds her for being too affectionate, causing her to pout. Offended by his remark, the young lady reacts with sudden anger. Jonah threatens to limit her social life if she continues to act out. A sharp exclamation sounds as she reminds him he won't be around forever. She grumbles about the situation while observing the incredibly long entrance exam line. A wooden sign marks the waiting area for the academy entrance exam. Jonah hands the young lady her official number slip for the test. Jonah offers to wait in line for a week, but she flatly refuses. She finds the idea of waiting a week unacceptable, leaving her guardians puzzled. Determined to find a faster way, the blonde girl refuses to wait. A heavy thud sounds as a man sets a table down, inviting everyone to an arm wrestling contest. The man declares the prize is a waiting slip from anyone ahead her. A loud clamor sounds as the crowd rushes to challenge the small girl. A chime sounds as a system window initiates an arm wrestling event. The system notes that winning this match will be an easy feat. She recognizes the event as a typical player-initiated quest. Smiling smugly, she accepts the challenge as a man slams his hand down. Jonah acts as the referee, preparing to start the first match. The signal sounds to begin the contest. Miss Oaknody effortlessly holds her own as a large, muscular man struggles with all his might in their arm wrestling match. A heavy thud echoes as the man's hand is slammed onto the table, marking his swift defeat. The surrounding crowd gasps in total shock at the sight of the small girl's overwhelming power. With a confident smirk, Miss Oaknody points to the next person in line and signals for them to step up. She continues her winning streak, beating another challenger who clutches his aching hand as she calls for the next opponent.
Another loud crack sounds as she pins yet another hand to the table and demands the next challenger.
Men in the crowd begin to weep and tremble, unable to fathom how a young lady is so impossibly strong. Standing alone at the table, she asks if there are any other challengers while the crowd shivers in fear. Narration notes her completion of various training challenges as Jonah and Leaf Life offer her their silent applause. A graph illustrates how her statistics have climbed significantly higher through her dedicated efforts. Over the past 30 days, her grueling sessions in swordsmanship, archery, and martial arts have all contributed to her massive strength gains. She reflects on earning specialized titles for her destruction of training equipment as her determination burns brightly. Shouting with triumphant energy, she celebrates her newly estimated strength level reaching 29. While the crowd whispers about her being a rich young lady, she privately gloats about her optimized combat build. A local man claps his hands together, announcing that only 10 seconds remain for anyone to place their final bets. Gamblers rush forward to place their bets, with some backing the young lady and others betting against her. The sound of coins clinking fills the air as a massive bag of gold is presented to the boss. Looking at his lucky charm, the bookie laughs heartily at the successful betting session. Miss Oaknody approaches the bookie with a bright smile, suggesting they split the profits equally. Her expression turns dark and menacing as she threatens to report him to the local lord for using a young girl for gambling. The terrified bookie collapses in tears while Jonah and Leaf Life continue to clap for their young mistress. A mysterious, dark silhouette stands out among the dense crowd of applicants gathered in the valley. A digital chime sounds as a system notification appears before Miss Oaknody, catching her off guard. She and her companions look around in confusion, searching for the unidentified individual mentioned by the system. Miss Oaknody stands with a serious gaze as debris floats through the air around her. Jonah and Leaf Life maintain their composed, slightly bored expressions as they wait with the girl. A lonely wind whistles through the empty clearing as she whines about the wait being endless.
Jonah suggests she may have shown off too much strength the previous day, causing her to pout with a tear in her eye.
Their conversation is interrupted by a sudden movement that causes Jonah and the girl to look up in surprise. The nearby crowd is stirred into a frenzy as they notice a formidable new challenger approaching the area. A wide, toothy grin appears on a furry face as someone calls out for attention. A massive, muscular monkey man looms over them, asking if the young lady wants to go around with him. He offers her a gold coin if she can win, but she covers her ears and refuses to acknowledge him while the crowd boos. She flatly refuses to arm wrestle the beast, questioning who would ever be crazy enough to challenge such a monster. Narration suggests her strength stat would need to be over 40 to handle the monkey man's bulging muscles. Jonah steps forward and tells the monkey man that the size difference between them and the miss is far too great. The monkey man admits he is impressed that such a tiny girl managed to throw around all those other opponents. A tense aura of power flares between Jonah and the monkey man as they negotiate betting their slip numbers and cash.
The large monkey man scratches his chin thoughtfully as he considers the proposal.
He turns away to head back into the crowd as Miss Oknoti peeks out from behind Jonah's back.
The monkey man approaches a young boy in the crowd, asking him what he thinks about the situation.
He holds a single, gleaming gold coin in his large palm, drawing the boy's attention. His hands move in a rapid blur as he performs a shell game, watched closely by the miss and her guardians.
The monkey man presents his closed fists and challenges the young boy to guess which one holds the coin.
A loud thud sounds as the boy picks a hand, only to find it completely empty. The monkey man laughs at his successful trick while Miss Oknoti realizes exactly how he did it. She rushes back to the bookie from earlier, shouting that she has a different kind of bet in mind. With a mischievous grin, Miss Oknoti holds up a gold coin of her own to propose the new game. She successfully tricks a girl in the crowd with the same sleight of hand, leaving the observer shocked and confused.
A man watching from the shadows notes to himself that the young blonde girl is truly amazing.
Miss Oknoti realizes that the entry barrier for the contest has dropped significantly, allowing anyone to join the gold coin game regardless of their strength. A bystander is amazed by Giselle's calm attitude even after he lost his position in the long queue. A formal title reveals that Giselle is a professional ticket hunter. The monkey man is impressed by the girl's speed and strength, but she dismissively tells him he is even slower than the gray-haired merchant. A loud shout sounds as the innkeeper announces group reservations and invites several applicants to enter the building. Jonah and Leaf Life offer a thumbs up and a silent clap to show their support for their young mistress. The trio celebrates successfully beating the massive waiting line in only 2 days. While Miss Oknoti eats her oatmeal, Jonah asks why she only orders one specific dish, and she explains it is a local specialty. Her quiet meal is interrupted by a mysterious figure approaching the table from behind.
A quick step sounds as the bard arrives and asks if they also managed to secure a spot inside.
The bard laughs while explaining that he managed to gain entry immediately the previous day. With a wink, he clarifies that he entered the establishment as a performer rather than a guest. A melodic chime sounds as he strums a chord, surrounded by glowing musical notes. Jonah quickly tells the girl to keep her thoughts to herself before she can insult the bard's supposedly low-ranking profession.
The bard asks if the three of them are visiting specifically for the ticket examination.
He leans in to whisper that the examiner comes down to the first floor every hour throughout the day. Miss Oknoti suspects a hidden hint lies within the examiner's routine, wondering how the bard discovered the information so quickly. With a cheerful laugh, the musician says he is heading off and skips away. A series of quick taps sound as the bard runs through the village under the moonlight. Lord Michael, the senior examiner, reveals himself while musing that he has found an interesting gem among the applicants. Michael grumbles that the inn has no real food worth eating as he looks over the menu.
The innkeeper informs Michael that they are currently out of honey and ice, asking him to return in a few days.
Jonah informs the young lady that the examiner has already set the challenge as a system window appears before them. A blue notification explains that the repetitive dialogue about running out of ingredients is the key hint for the exam. Miss Oknoti studies the information with a serious expression, preparing for the next step of the quest.
She tells her companions not to worry because she already has a clever plan in mind.
Narration explains the specific altitudes and mountain layers where the required honey and ice must be harvested. A vision of the frozen peaks illustrates the harsh conditions where the ice is located. The blonde girl questions why anyone would choose such a difficult and time-consuming path to pass the exam. The monkey man asks if catching a monster from the 4th layer will count toward his reward. The crowd murmurs as the beast man heads out alone, leaving everyone to wonder if he is crazy for attempting the challenge without a team. A sharp top sounds as Giselle approaches the girl and asks which ingredient she plans to hunt. She smiles and says she isn't aiming for anything specific while Jonah looms menacingly behind her. With a mischievous look, she asks who said there was only one way to pass the test. Giselle mentions her unconventional attitude as she asks if he is a coward himself. The merchant smiles broadly, stating he has his own unique methods for getting what he wants. The scene shifts as 2 days pass at the busy inn. A heavy rattle sounds as carts arrive, delivering all the items that Giselle had previously requested.
Giselle smiles with satisfaction while checking his detailed inventory list.
The surrounding crowd is thrown into an uproar by the massive and sudden delivery of supplies. A sharp snap sounds as an onlooker points out that Giselle is a very famous and trending merchant. He tops his clipboard with a confident and relaxed expression. Giselle trades his goods for a large stack of tickets while the examiner watches the transaction from the counter. A heavy step sounds as the examiner approaches to inspect the successful trade. Michael notes the merchant's high level of experience while checking the records. A series of rustles sound as the examiner notes that Giselle is the first to score 32 tickets in one go. The crowd gasps in amazement as the stack of valuable tickets is handed over to the merchant.
Peeking through the doorway, Miss Oknati is genuinely impressed by the merchant's clever and efficient strategy. Giselle asks the little lady if she wants to buy a ticket, listing the high prices for bronze and silver options. A silhouette reveals the cloaked figure's true identity, which she previously failed to recognize without his specific in-game appearance. The merchant is stunned as Miss Oknati offers a bag of 10 gold coins for a simple bronze ticket. Miss Oknoti smiles brightly, clarifying that she actually intends to purchase something else from him. A look of pure shock crosses the merchant's face as the young girl leans in to whisper a secret request. Giselle stands alone in the clearing, watching in silence as the girl and Jonah run off together. 5 days pass at the busy inn while the merchant wonders how the young mistress plans to secure her ticket. Jonah runs alongside Miss Oknoti, explaining that her high stats mean simple cardio is no longer effective training. A sharp snap sounds as Jonah produces 2 training daggers, proposing dodging drills to improve her evasion. Jonah warns her that he will announce his strikes beforehand, but she must remain sharp to avoid getting hurt. The butler's eye gleams with intensity as he prepares to launch his first calculated attack. Miss Oknoti leaps through the air, successfully dodging as Jonah calls out targets like her right ear and left leg. Giselle looks on in distress, his mouth agape as he watches the girl's grueling training routine. Back at the inn, Giselle finds it highly unusual that the girl wants to buy his meal voucher. Miss Oknoti confidently confirms her plan to pay for the special dishes he will earn upon passing the challenge. She gleefully explains those rare quest rewards are unique, causing Giselle to worry about her own examination status. With a determined smile, she admits she would rather prioritize a good meal and worry about the ticket later. A soft hum sounds as Giselle's eyes glow with a mysterious energy, deep in thought about her proposal. Crossing her arms, Miss Oknoti challenges the merchant to settle the matter with a bet instead. Giselle offers a deal where her loss results in a high-priced silver ticket purchase, leaving her drooling at the thought of winning. A quick swipe sounds as Jonah uses a cloth to clean her face, scolding her to maintain proper manners. Giselle is left speechless by her overwhelming confidence, looking on with a mixture of awe and disbelief. From the shadows, the merchant observes the trio as they enjoy their meal together in the crowded inn. Giselle notes that both the maid and the butler are exceptional individuals after watching them for several days. He watches in horror as Leaf Life offers a palate cleanser that is secretly laced with poison. His concern grows as he recalls Jonah regularly swinging a lethal knife at his young charge during practice. Giselle shudders, thinking that any normal observer would have already reported this dangerous treatment to the local lord. A sudden thud sounds as Miss Oknoti pushes herself away from the table, finished with her meal. She looks up in surprise as the merchant suddenly appears before her, catching her off guard. Giselle smiles warmly, stating he has seen enough of her daily struggles to survive her companion's training. He places a hand on his chest, promising to personally ensure she finds a way to survive the coming trials. Miss Oknoti asks if she is being recruited while a dark, menacing aura flares from Jonah behind her. Power clashes between the two men as Jonah flatly rejects the offer, though Giselle tells her to keep it in mind. The merchant realizes that a large portion of the people gathered in the common room are actually under his employ. Waving her hands, Miss Oknoti calls for an end to the confrontation and thanks him for the offer. Giselle walks away, leaving a final reminder that he is an adult willing to help her through any rough patches. At the front counter, the innkeeper informs a group of adventurers that they have already collected enough ingredients. A heavy step sounds as the monkey man slams a bag of thornvine monster sap onto the counter. The innkeeper leans over to inspect the contents, checking if there is enough sap to prepare a full serving. Lord Michael sits nearby, silently observing the transaction with a bored and disinterested expression. The monkey man laughs loudly at Miss Oknoti, mocking her for still being stuck at the inn without a ticket. Michael stands up and approaches the large beast man, acknowledging that he successfully completed his task. A sharp slap sounds as a valuable golden slip is held up in the light. Michael explains the rules of passing the exam as the monkey man looks on with an intense gaze. The monkey man challenges the examiner to a fight, which Michael accepts with a dark, confident grin. Miss Oknoti watches quietly as the two powerful challengers head off to begin their duel. She takes advantage of the distraction, stepping toward the empty counter with a subtle movement. A light tap sounds as the girl approaches her target while the merchant watches from the distance. Giselle asks if this was the specific opportunity she had been waiting for, and she confirms it with a smile. A sudden boom sounds as the girl prepares to play her final trump card to beat the odds. She presents a hidden document titled the Special Request Menu, revealing a way to force the quest she wants. Michael walks away into the distance, leaving the inn's main floor as the scene shifts. Michael studies the ledger intently as a heavy slump sounds. Michael turns his head sharply with a quick swish sound in. Oknoti announces her presence proudly as a bright sparkle sounds. Miss Oknoti demands the examiner focus only on her while Michael remains silent. Michael ponders her unexpected boldness in silence. The examiner chuckles at her growing confidence as a soft ha sounds. Narration wonders about the true value of the girl everyone is fighting over. Miss Oknoti smiles with pure joy. A tense moment passes as Michael's arm is firmly restrained. At sunset, Michael prepares for his duel with Oknoti. Narration notes her bold talent as the girl stretches with a long stretch sounding. Michael smirks about her early bedtime while Oknoti yawns and explains it helps her grow. Michael approaches with a wooden sword, noting he has waited 5 whole days for this menu as a quick clack sounds. Michael draws his weapon, warning the girl that passing won't be easy as a swift whoosh sounds. Miss Oknoti offers a knowing smile while narration details the extreme difficulty of the 5th tier. Michael stares with intense focus. Onlookers question her arrogance in attempting a challenge even beastmen could not pass. A wooden sword is gripped firmly as a sharp clack sounds. Miss Oknoti swings her blade with a quick woof sounding. Their wooden swords clash violently as a sharp clack sounds. Michael welcomes the cross of blades to test her true skill as a metallic cling sounds. The examiner gives a dark smirk with a soft huh sounding. Michael warns that it is too late for regrets as a low boom sounds. The duel continues under the dying light of the sun as a whistling whoosh sounds. Michael lunges forward with a sudden gash. A heavy foot slams down with a loud thump. Oknoti parries the heavy strike with ease as a sharp clock sounds. Michael is pushed back sharply as a quick whoosh sounds. A massive swing creates a shockwave with a loud whoosh sounding. She counterattacks with surprising speed as a quick swish sounds. Michael is knocked backward by the force as a heavy thud sounds. Michael smirks and admires her controlled talent, wondering if she belongs to an elite assassination clan. The examiner analyzes her multifaceted skills, noting she could easily handle the 4th tier. Michael declares she has passed, leaving the girl shocked by the sudden conclusion. Miss Oknoti pouts about holding back her wand magic and tier 5 skills. Michael presents a glowing platinum ticket as a soft rustle sounds and Oknoti gasps. Michael praises her success in all areas, especially her impressive strategy with the special menu. She laughs awkwardly and thanks him for the recognition. Michael offers a sudden choice that catches her off guard with a quick whoosh sounding. He giggles while proposing a ticket trade as narration notes the rarity of iron and bronze tickets. Michael lists the market prices while Oknoti recalls his earlier price gouging. Oknoti firmly chooses the platinum ticket, causing Michael to react with amusement. Miss Oknoti huffs, realizing he is testing her resolve and noting her own financial independence. Michael searches his pockets one last time as a soft rustle sounds. Michael hands over ticket number 15, explaining that lower numbers represent significantly higher value. Oknoti admires the high-value ticket in her hand. Michael explains the ticket details as the girl offers a loud cheer. She suddenly stops as a quick jerk sounds. Michael turns back and asks for her name. Miss Oknoti smiles with a warm beam. Michael looks back at the fading sunset, muttering Oknoti's name and hoping she grows into a talent worth crossing swords with in 10 years. A wooden sword hits the ground as a sharp clatter sounds. Michael reflects on returning to another dull day. Leaf Life prepares the luggage while Oknoti waves goodbye to the staff. Oknoti stands alone in the room. Giselle approaches the girl, praising her impressive performance. The merchant greets her with a friendly smile.
Giselle admits she won the bet as she holds her prize high.
Giselle asks if she understands the difference between the various tickets. Oknoti ponders the game logic where tickets were based on luck, noting that low digits were unheard of. Giselle explains that even a silver ticket guarantees entrance to the exam. Narration suggests the girl must be the product of a noble family's careful upbringing. Narration describes the abuse children suffer from families desperate to get them into top academies.
Giselle asks for her family name, but the girl admits she doesn't know it.
The merchant is stunned by her lack of family knowledge. Giselle questions her about social debuts and tea parties, though she only cares about the food served there. The merchant realizes this is not a normal noble family as a cold sweat sounds. Giselle worries she was sacrificed for family glory while the girl looks on with curiosity. Giselle announces he has made up his mind. The merchant dramatically declares he is taking the exam too.
Oknoti looks skeptical about this new Merchant Academy enrollment event that never existed in the original game.
Narration highlights Giselle as a hidden character who successfully hit a rare 0.1% chance. Oknoti notes that he is accepting the result gracefully, like a middle-aged man following a dream. She gives him a thumbs up and wishes a look. Oknoti cheers him on while Giselle is overcome by a dark, frustrated aura. Giselle wonders about his feelings after deciding to protect the girl. The merchant clenches his fist, annoyed by the girl's attitude. A sudden boom sounds as the girl looks at a glowing ticket. Oknoti asks what kind of ticket she is holding. Narration explains that transport is usually limited to carriage or ship. Jonah prepares to explain the situation while adjusting his monocle. A massive vessel appears as Jonah reveals the ticket is actually for an airship. Oknoti is shocked by the mention of an airship. Jonah mentions it was the last ticket he could secure as Giselle pays an official nearby. Giselle happily notes it is time to board the airship. Oknoti asks why there are 2 tickets as Leaf Life watches silently from behind. A magnificent airship rests at the port with a loud roar sounding. The girl is amazed by the sight of the vessel. Oknoti asks Jonah the price of the ticket and he confirms it costs 10 gold coins. Jonah explains the master gave it as a reward, but the girl reacts with total shock. Oknoti is dazed by the high cost of the silver ticket. She asks for her father's name, but Jonah says she will find out when the time is right. Giselle wonders if it is normal to not know a father's name.
Giselle suggests they enjoy the trip as exam buddies, causing Leaf Life to scoff.
Jonah warns the merchant to be careful, noting that accidents frequently happen on airships.
Giselle prepares to introduce someone as the girl notices a familiar face.
Someone waves from the crowd with a loud shout. The girl recognizes the large beast man from earlier.
The monkey man explains that escorting someone earned him an airship ticket.
Giselle introduces Sun Oh-chun as his escort while the girl is stunned by the merchant's spending and the companion's glare.
Her wrists are suddenly seized as a sharp gasp sounds. Leaf Life asks why she is being stopped with a curious expression.
Miss Oknoti scolds the group for their rude behavior toward people trying to approach her. She offers a supportive thumbs up, praising the merchant's willingness to start a new life. Jonah and Leaf Life stare in a long, awkward silence.
Sun Oh-chun laughs and hits Giselle's back with a heavy thump. Giselle seethes with rage, tempted to discipline the girl for her attitude. The airship glides majestically through the clouds with a soft whoosh sounding.
The group walks through the grand corridor as a steady rhythm of footsteps sounds.
Jonah leans in to offer guidance to the young lady. Oknoti dashes excitedly toward the dining hall with a quick pitter-patter sounding. She reaches into her pocket as a soft rustle sounds. She checks her notebook, annoyed that she can't access her full status screen. Narration notes the massive amount of information she has organized separately. She marvels at the lavish buffet spread as a loud wow sounds. The girl stretches her arms in excitement as a soft rustle sounds. She declares the feast to be a total paradise. Miss Oknoti stuffs her face with cookies as a quick munch sounds.
Jonah asks if she is only eating cookies, which she quickly confirms.
She pauses to consider the exact definition of a single servant. Sun Oh-chun walks by with a mountain of meat, mocking her small appetite. The beast man presents a plate of steaks, demonstrating the proper way to feast.
A sudden realization strikes as a digital chime sounds.
She smiles broadly, deciding to eat like a normal person to complete her log. The girl sits back at the table with a contented look. System windows pop up as she adds mushroom soup, crab avocado, and salmon sushi to her collection. A melon entry is added to her food log with a bright chime sounding. Sun Oh-chun praises her growing appetite as she works through the fruit. Oknoti laughs happily, proud that she didn't break any of the fine china. Jonah considers introducing heavy training plates as his eye glows with a menacing red light. Jonah serves a beautifully plated dish as a soft clock sounds. The girl is startled by the sudden service.
Jonah expresses deep admiration for her diligence and lack of complaints compared to other children.
Giselle observes the beast man eating while declaring his faith in the girl's potential.
Jonah vows that the master will acknowledge her one day, while she privately hopes to be ignored. A glowing purple jewel is presented in his open palm. Jonah challenges her to eventually unlock the mystery of the gem. The girl and Jonah head off to begin their training session with a loud cheer. Sun Oh-chun speaks up with a low mutter sounding. Giselle notes that things on the airship are not as they appear, as a low hum sounds. A terrifying scream echoes from the airship during the night as a loud eek sounds. Miss Oknoti is horrified by a shocking discovery.
Time passes into the late evening hours as the ship continues its flight.
The girl and her maid are devastated to find the Sky Buffet has closed for the day.
Leaf Life suggests visiting a separate evening restaurant to save the night. Oknoti accepts the offer with renewed vigor. A waiter presents a menu at the high-end establishment as a soft rustle sounds. Leaf Life leaves to find more facilities while the girl feels a pang of guilt. Oknoti is shocked by the high prices until Jonah reassures her that the master's funds are available. Jonah confirms that her expensive meal is a reward for her platinum ticket success. Jonah conveys the master's expectations for her growth, leaving Oknoti puzzled by the sudden pressure. Oknoti asks if he'll stay if she fails to improve, causing Jonah to react with a sharp jerk sounding as he remains silent. Jonah dismisses the possibility of her failure as they sit in the dining hall while Oknoti questions his certainty. Jonah adjusts his monocle with a soft clack sounding while revealing the master's extensive sponsorship of other children. Oknoti's hand strikes the table with a firm thud sounding as Jonah explains the master's tendency to ignore those without talent. Oknoti shifts the focus to Jonah's personal feelings, but the butler turns away into a long, heavy silence. A strong breeze blows across the airship deck with a sharp whoosh sounding near the storage barrels. Oknoti swings a wooden sword with a quick swish sounding, looking determined despite the physical strain. Leaf Life watches silently from the shadows as the girl continues her rigorous training. The maid calls out to her young lady, causing Oknoti to flinch with a sudden jerk sounding.
Leaf Life asks if there was a conflict with the butler, making Oknoti realize her inner frustration is clearly visible.
Oknoti reflects on being ignored for days by the butler, noting how easy it is to notice his distance. Oknoti crouches down with a soft rustle sounding while regretting her own childish questions. Oknoti admits she felt hurt, her hand clenching her chest with a tight squeeze sounding as she reveals her true feelings. The girl confesses she wanted a promise of eternal companionship, which leaves Leaf Life stunned. Oknoti assumes Leaf Life is bound only by professional duty, and the maid bows while confirming she follows the master's orders. Oknoti feels isolated, wondering if anyone in the world is truly on her side.
Leaf Life speaks of flowers wilting and the inevitability of goodbyes as the scene shifts.
The maid kneels before the girl with a soft rustle sounding to get on her level.
Leaf Life smiles warmly while expressing her deep hope for Oknodi's ultimate success.
Oknodi is overwhelmed with emotion, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears.
A jar filled with colorful candies is presented with a soft clink sounding.
Leaf Life promises to stay by her side until every single candy in the jar is gone.
Oknodi asks about the possibility of being called home, but Leaf Life dismisses the order with a defiant attitude.
Oknodi lunges into a tight hug with a sudden rush sounding, finally letting her guard down. Oknodi expresses her gratitude and Leaf Life reciprocates the warm embrace with a soft rustle sounding.
Oknodi pulls back while blushing, trying to hide her embarrassment after the emotional outburst.
The girl acts tough again, claiming she is feeling generous enough to let the maid's behavior slide.
Oknodi stands tall and shouts the maid's name to get her attention.
Oknodi suddenly demands to be taken to the casino, leaving Leaf Life looking completely baffled.
Oknodi stands ready for her next big venture with a look of intense focus.
A sign for a restricted kid zone appears, emphasizing that height is a major factor on the ship.
Oknodi is overcome with rage and frustration regarding the ship's restrictive policies.
She smirks while planning to use her secret money-making strategy to solve her financial problems. Oknodi's dream of being a high roller is cut short as she imagines showering Jonah in cash.
Leaf Life explains the strict age and height prohibitions, striking Oknodi with a sharp zing sounding.
Leaf Life declares she will devise a better plan to help the girl.
The maid tells her to wait in a safe area, leaving Oknodi to fume in silent frustration.
Oknodi looks around with a confused expression as she finds herself in an unfamiliar room.
A height chart shaped like a giraffe mocks her small stature in the play area.
Oknodi's curiosity as a former pro gamer is piqued by the new environment.
She runs toward a noise with a quick pitter-patter sounding to investigate.
2 small children are crying and making a mess on the floor of the room. Oknodi is bombarded by the sounds of crying children, losing health points in the chaotic atmosphere. She dives headfirst into a ball pit with a loud splash sounding.
Oknodi emerges from the sea of colorful balls with a determined look.
She grins while feeling proud of her ability to dodge the crying infants.
Her ear twitches as she catches a snippet of a nearby conversation.
Oknodi peeks over the edge of the ball pit to see who is speaking. She overhears adults nearby discussing the prestigious academy, sparking a new interest. 2 children complain about a drooling baby while discussing a brother's potential enrollment at the prestigious academy. The boy notes that entering the academy at 15 would be a mark of a true prodigy.
Just wonders if anyone their age can pass, as the boy calls her too gullible.
Oknodi makes a sudden dramatic entrance through a mountain of colorful balls with a loud splash sounding.
An awkward silence falls over the group as they sit together on a wooden bench while everyone begins to tremble.
Jess and Max explain that they are neighbors from barren families rather than close friends. The pair is visibly shaken when Oknodi asks if they are also heading to the academy entrance exam. Oknodi confirms her destination, leaving the other children completely wide-eyed with shock. Oknodi regrets revealing too much as the other 2 stare at her with sparkling, intense admiration. The baby grabs for Oknodi with a soft rustle sounding as the boy quickly apologizes for the child's behavior. Oknodi offers to help hold the restless baby, much to the boy's relief.
Jess marvels at Oknodi's maturity, while the girl privately considers herself to be an adult in a child's body.
The baby holds up a bright green ball with a curious gurgle sounding. Oknodi realizes the specific ball the baby is holding is significantly heavier than the others. She examines the glowing sphere, her curiosity fully piqued by its unusual weight. Oknodi observes a muscular attendant in a fairy costume and decides to swallow the mysterious stone to see what happens. A violent aura of flame erupts from Oknodi as she realizes she was right about the stone's power. A frantic shout for Oknodi echoes through the play area as the girl's expression becomes a blank mask. Jess and Max are horrified, demanding to know why she would ever swallow something from a ball pit. Max rushes off to find an adult while Jess firmly seizes Oknodi's hands to drag her to the nurse. Oknodi is caught off guard as she is pulled along by the determined young girl. Oknodi resists the pull, worried that Leaf Life will soon come looking for her as Jess's strength is assessed. Oknight's strength causes Jess to stumble with a sudden jerk sounding as the girl tries to maintain her lead. The 2 girls sprint through the corridors with a quick pitter-patter sounding as Jess urges them to hurry. Leaf Life searches the area with a confused expression, wondering where her charge has disappeared to. The maid smiles knowingly, realizing that Oknodi is up to her usual antics again. Leaf Life peeks under a nearby surface with a soft rustle sounding to check for the hiding girl.
She remarks on Oknodi's predictable hiding spots while an onlooker watches the maid crawl on the floor.
Leaf Life spots a small foot sticking out from a massive pile of ball pit spheres. The maid dives into the sea of colorful balls with a loud splash sounding to retrieve her lady. The grand airship continues its steady journey through the bright, clear sky while a voice shouts in disbelief.
Oknodi is deeply troubled by the discovery that she is an undocumented minor in the magical archives.
An official suggests a technical glitch might be the cause, while Oknodi sweats over her lack of registration.
Jess whispers to Oknity about her status, while Oknity admits she was never told about such magical requirements. A physical description of Oknity is broadcast as the girl realizes her maid is actively searching for her.
A firm hand claps onto Oknoti's shoulder as a loud shout of her name startles the pair. Jess warns Oknoti that not being registered is a sign that her family is far from normal.
Oknity remains unbothered, valuing the support and intense training she receives regardless of her legal status.
She considers her current benefactor to be the best father figure she has ever encountered.
Oknoti describes her brutal training regimen, which prompts a terrified Jess to suggest they run away together immediately.
Jess drags Oknity away from the perceived danger with a sudden rush sounding.
The nurses try to calm the children with candy while they wait for a guardian to arrive. Oknity innocently asks about the candy flavor while Jess prepares a hidden weapon with a soft clack sounding.
Jess suddenly brandishes a firearm, leaving Oknoti completely frozen with shock.
The nurses are left wailing in confusion as Jess pulls Oknoti toward the exit with a quick pitter-patter sounding.
Oknoti cries comically while being dragged along, questioning the legality of their escape. Jess is completely out of breath while Oknoti stands perfectly fine, unaffected by the physical exertion.
Jess points out an emergency escape pod as a way to flee the airship once and for all. Oknoti scratches her cheek, admitting she was only playing along with the girl's dramatic rescue attempt.
A series of system windows announce that Oknoti has earned significant experience points in stealth, infiltration, and daring.
Jonah discovers the girls and asks if they had fun, causing a tense atmosphere to descend over the corridor.
Jess tries to protest while Oknity realizes her daring escape attempt has been completely thwarted by the butler.
Narrative text explains that international magic can register anyone over 5, making any avoidance of the process appear highly suspicious.
Jonah looks down with a stern gaze while noting that hiding a child's identity usually implies sinister motives. Jess begs Oknoti not to go as the butler leads her away from the restricted area of the ship.
Jess tells Oknoti she doesn't have to live for others, causing the girl to flinch with a sudden startle sounding.
Oknoti stops to thank Jess, calling the other girl her first true friend with a sincere and warm expression.
The girl takes Jess's hands in hers to share a final, honest truth before they are forced to part ways.
Oknoti reveals her firm intention to enroll in the prestigious academy despite her current lack of legal registration. A look of unwavering determination settles on the young girl's face as the scene shifts.
Jess is moved to tears by the farewell as she gazes sadly at Oknoti.
Oknoti bids Jess a final goodbye while gently releasing her hands with a soft rustle sounding.
Oknoti turns to follow Jonah, signaling that she is ready to face whatever consequences await her at the end of the hall.
Oknoti reaches out to Jonah while noting that the maid must be very worried about her long disappearance.
Jonah closes his eyes while dismissing any further questions or explanations regarding the recent commotion in the medical wing.
Oknoti shrugs dismissively while claiming the entire escape was just a prank and mocking the guard's perceived incompetence. The butler and the girl hold hands as the narrative reflects on the strange path they now walk together.
Jonah leads the way toward the exit as Oknoti follows with a bright, compliant response. Jess watches them disappear into the distance, her hands clenched tightly in a silent vow to help her friend. Max rushes over to find a distraught Jess while shouting her name with a frantic pitter-patter sounding.
A tearful Jess tells Max she has made up her mind as he asks about Oknoti's current whereabouts.
Jess looks on with a sharp gaze while becoming determined to help Oknoti regardless of the obstacles.
Giselle introduces himself to the two children as a jack-of-all-trades merchant and a friend of Oknoti. Narrative windows identify Max and Jess as members of the Baron families, Millefilly and Montblanc.
Giselle suggests the children write to their siblings to set a plan in motion for Oknoti's benefit.
Max and Jess are filled with hope while believing that their older siblings will surely provide the necessary aid. The children run off to find writing materials while Giselle notes that letters alone may not be enough to save the girl.
Jess and Max sprint toward their new goal while hoping their efforts will not be in vain.
The grand airship finally lands at its destination, signaling the end of the long journey. A boot steps firmly onto the ground with a soft thud sounding as the travelers arrive at the testing site.
Oknoti and her attendants reach the second entrance exam location, and the girl marvels at the scenic view.
Crowds of potential students walk toward the testing grounds as onlookers watch the procession with curiosity. Oknoti wonders where the other examinees are heading as they move toward a nearby hill in the distance. Leaflife whispers that gold ticket holders like the Monkey Beastman are following the same path to the exam. Oknoti observes a series of stone towers as she navigates the crowded mountainside with her companions. Oknoti claims to understand the exam's gimmick, making Jonah nervous that she might try to swallow another stone. The group arrives at massive wooden gates where many examinees gather to begin the next phase of testing.
Jonah kneels and urges Oknoti to be extremely careful once the staff can no longer protect her inside the gates.
Oknoti looks at her butler with shimmering eyes, touched by his rare and genuine display of concern. Leaflife offers a bag of candy for the exam while expressing full confidence in Oknoti's inevitable success.
Oknoti beams with excitement while promising her loyal servants that she will do her absolute best.
Oknoti walks toward the open gates while her servants worry about her tendency to get too attached to others.
Giselle and the large monkey beastman walk together, serving as the hidden guardians Jonah assigned to watch over the girl.
Jonah confirms he kept the Beastman around specifically to protect Oknoti during the dangerous entrance exam. Oknoti runs toward the trial as the narrative warns that other entrants will see her as a threat to their success. An unknown voice calls out to Oknoti as she scans the mountain landscape during a clear sunset. The monkey Beastman mocks Oknoti for having nannies, but the merchant tells him not to bother with such minor details. Giselle warns Oknoti that the real pressure of the academy exam is about to begin. The merchant notes that the other entrants look hostile toward them as the atmosphere becomes increasingly tense. Rival examinees gossip about Oknoti's odd choice of companions while deciding they owe her no respect or favors. Oknoti fumes with anger over being ignored, while the Beastman suggests that caring about every little detail will only wear her out. Oknoti graciously accepts the advice as the Beastman touches his nose with a satisfied expression. A sudden, loud shout for help startles the group, with a sudden startle sounding as danger erupts nearby. A stoic swordsman sheaths his blade with a soft clack sounding, while an onlooker recognizes his terrifying presence. A horrific scream fills the air as narrative text reveals that an entrant has just had their arms severed by the swordsman. Oknoti identifies the lethal attacker as Xing, the renowned swordsman from the Eastern Empire. Onlookers whisper that the victim must have foolishly crossed Xing's boundaries as the swordsman stands in a scorched circle. System windows identify Xing as a powerful, playable, or supporting character depending on the player's choices. Xing turns with a quick turn sounding to look at Oknoti while she notes that his game stats are incredibly high. Oknoti flinches as a system notification warns that making eye contact with the swordsman will trigger an immediate fight. A system window grants Oknoti a massive point bonus for arriving at the exam grounds over 15 hours early. Narrative text notes the passage of time as twilight falls over the Academy's massive spiked stone towers. A heavy bell tolls across the mountainside with a deep bell sounding to signal the next phase of the exam. A bald, elderly monk walks steadily toward the assembly platform with a firm footstep sounding. The monk raises a hand to address the large crowd of silhouetted candidates gathered at the testing site. The official declares that entry to the senior testing ground is closed and the first gate exam has officially begun. A promotional page invites readers to commission their favorite series with specific price rates and contact information.
A recruitment announcement for translators and editors appears as the scene shifts back to the exam.
The elderly monk introduces himself as Monk Myungho, the presiding official for the first gate exam. The Beastman observes that Myungho is not an average monk, while Oknoti notes he was hired by the academy. Narrative text explains that the Eastern Empire relies on local mountain spirits rather than powerful deities. Candidates are shown performing rituals at stone towers built as symbols of faith to call upon protecting gods. Oknoti realizes with a silent nod sounding that the exam involves the traditional practice of stone tower stacking. Myungho warns the crowd that any candidate whose tower collapses before the end of the test will be disqualified. Oknoti smiles with a mischievous grin sounding as she realizes the exam is a chaotic event where players wreck each other's work. The monk instructs all examinees to take out their tickets and hold them against their wrists. A brilliant golden light erupts with a soft rustle sounding as a ticket is pressed firmly against a candidate's skin. The tickets transform into magical wristwatches with a sudden click sounding to track performance and assist in grading. Myungho warns the candidates that while the watches send rescue signals, relying on them too much could lead to death. A chalk outline marked with red crosses emphasizes the lethal risk of having one's head sliced off instantly. The monk announces that platinum ticket holders are eligible to take a special mid-level final exam. Oknoti notes that the rules regarding penalties for excessive killing are oddly thorough now that the game has become reality. The girl hopes that no cursed events will occur while the main and supporting NPCs are absent from the immediate area. System windows showcase key NPCs like Xing, who ensure a clean run without unfair regional events. Oknoti clenches her fist with a firm squeeze sounding while vowing to do her absolute best in the upcoming trial. The monkey Beastman asks Oknoti what her plan is as the first gate exam officially begins. Oknoti disappears from the group with a quick footstep sounding as her companions walk through the forest. A series of system windows announce that Oknoti has earned experience points in stealth and quick maneuvering with a quick peak sounding. Oknoti reflects on her intense training for survival situations while remaining completely hidden from view. The Beastman and Giselle react with total confusion to Oknoti's cryptic comments about her training. A sudden shout identifies the arrival of Irene, the powerful Northern Grand Duchess. Candidates scream in terror with a sudden rush sounding as a magical ice storm sweeps through the area. Irene conjures sharp shards of ice with a sudden rush sounding to repel attackers during the exam.
A massive explosion of freezing energy erupts with a sudden boom sounding as candidates are sent flying.
The Beastman shakes off the frost with a quick shake sounding while praising Giselle for bringing a protective ice defense cloak. Narrative windows identify Irene as a legendary combat mage who has fought northern barbarians since her childhood. Oknoti shakes her head with a soft head shake sounding while calling anyone who would attack Irene completely crazy.
The Beastman and Giselle search the area with a quick glance, sounding as they wonder where Aknodi has disappeared to.
Oknodi calls out to her companions to let them know she is nearby while they look around in confusion.
Oknodi peeks out from a small hole in the ground as she continues to hide during the chaotic opening of the exam.
Oknodi explains that her training involved dodging magical attacks and assassins as her companions watch with shocked expressions.
Giselle asks if she really practiced such dangerous activities, while Aknodi finds her survival skills to be perfectly normal.
Sun Oh-chun and Giselle agree they have a lot to say to the girls' attendants with an angry tick-tock sounding.
Irene uses freezing magic to repel attackers, while Oknodi identifies her as a territorial combatant with a sharp whistle sounding.
Narrative windows identify the new big three powerhouses, Hector, Jadis, and Irene, noting that challenging them would be foolish.
Sun Oh-chun expresses interest in the other candidates' abilities as Giselle nervously tries to get his attention.
Oknodi gives a determined thumbs up while feeling confident about the challenges awaiting them, with a bright shine sounding.
Oknodi warns the group not to underestimate the exam as she points out the specific stones needed for the trial.
The girl mentions a surprise event unknown to the NPCs while Giselle and the Beastman listen with curious nods.
Oknodi predicts a massive landslide will occur precisely 1 hour before the entrance exam is scheduled to conclude.
The group sprints through the dense forest while keeping a sharp eye on their surroundings with a quick pitter-patter sounding.
Sun Oh-chun questions if climbing the mountain is the right move, while Oknodi fumes with an angry throb sounding. Candidates are seen frantically stalking stone towers mid-mountain, while others mock the madness of the chaotic scene.
Chibi examinees argue about their numerical advantage as Oknodi deals with a growing headache over the mounting tension.
Factions form between large coalitions at the base and competitive troll groups mid-mountain during a sudden skill showdown.
The group runs towards safety as narrative text details the conflict between fugitives hiding and hunters thinning the competition. A system window announces that Oknodi has earned 3 points of mountaineering experience while she moves with a light footstep sounding. Further notifications appear to confirm that Oknodi's stamina and vigilance stats have increased during the intense mountain climb.
Giselle offers Oknodi a piece of jerky while they run, and she accepts the snack with a cheerful response.
Oknodi bites into the snack and immediately realizes this is far superior to any regular dried meat.
A blue system window confirms that honey butter jerky has been officially added to the girls' food collection.
Giselle notes the girl's impressive appetite as Oknodi continues chewing while a confused examinee watches from a distance. Oknodi decides she must stay on good terms with the wealthy merchant group with a mischievous grin sounding.
A hunter group suddenly appears behind them with a loud shout sounding as they catch up to the trio.
Exhausted examinees collapse in a dark aura while one desperately cries out that they are all going to die.
Sun Oh-chun readies his weapon with a satisfied smirk sounding while asking the hunters if they want to fight.
A woman from the Asonia Adventurer Guild blames the children and beastmen for the deaths of her fellow members.
Oknodi deadpans while questioning why the woman is targeting them for revenge instead of the actual culprits.
The guild member draws her sword with a sharp glare while vowing to pay the trio back for her losses. The two groups face off in the forest as the guild members prepare to attack the children and Beastman. Sun Oh-chun tells the woman to target those at fault while Oknodi realizes the guild members are just impulsive children.
Narrative text notes the group's aimless rage as the order is given to grab the examinees immediately.
The guild leader senses a sudden change in the atmosphere as ropes begin to appear with a sudden click sounding.
Oknodi and Sun Oh-chun grab hold of a thick rope as the girls' companions watch with total confusion.
A system window triggers a massive landslide event as the mountain landscape begins to shift violently.
Rocks tumble down with a deafening crash sounding as the examinees are told to prioritize survival over their stone towers.
Oknodi grips the rope with a determined look while the mountainside crumbles away with a strained tug sounding.
Examinees scream for help as they fall into a massive fissure that opens in the ground with a loud roar sounding. The guild woman desperately tries to hold onto the ledge while debris falls around her with a sharp clack sounding.
Several people dangle precariously from a single rope as they are pulled to safety with a sudden yank sounding.
The guild woman stares in shock while a small cut on her face begins to bleed with a soft drip sounding. Oknodi strains against the rope while holding the group steady as the ground below them continues to break apart.
A massive wall of earth and stone slides down the mountainside with a deep rumble sounding during the chaos.
The group lands safely on stable ground with a soft thud sounding as they look back at the destruction.
Oknodi checks the rope while feeling a strange sensation and wondering about a mysterious term with a soft rustle sounding. The guild woman asks why Oknodi helped them after all the harsh and hostile things she said earlier.
Oknodi pauses to reflect on the question while considering her true reasons for saving the guild members. The girl simply states she helped because she could as her companions watch her with wide, stunned eyes. The guild members are visibly moved by her selfless act of kindness as their previous hostility completely vanishes.
Narrative text likens her kindness to the way their late guild leader used to act as the group stands in silence.
The guild members from Asonia look down in shame as they reflect on their previous hostility toward the children.
Oknoti ponders the beauty of a life lived unconstrained as she watches the sunlight filter through the trees.
Isabel and her companion admit their defeat with a humble nod sounding while accepting their failure in the exam.
The brown-haired woman speaks about the dignity of being an adult and an adventurer as the wind picks up with a soft whoosh sounding. A guild member informs Isabel that they are forfeiting the exam as she looks at them with wide, surprised eyes.
Isabel is completely stunned into silence as she realizes she is the only one from her group being urged to continue.
The guild members explain they only participated out of worry for her and admit they aren't strong enough to enter the academy.
A guild member tells a tearful Isabel that she must carry their shared hopes forward with a soft sniffle sounding.
Oknoti and her group look on as the guild members offer a sincere apology for their behavior with a sudden splash sounding.
A guild member asks Oknoti if she can find it in her heart to forgive their leader and accept her into the group.
Oknoti places a hand to her chin while considering the request with a thoughtful expression.
The companion leans in and tells Oknoti that she saved them, so he will follow whatever decision she makes with a smooth slide sounding.
Sun Ochan agrees to leave the final verdict to Oknoti while the girl prepares to speak. Oknoti approaches the stunned Isabel and simply asks if she has any skills as a cook.
Oknoti grabs Isabel's hand firmly with a sudden grab sounding as the woman confirms that adventurers must be self-sufficient in the wild. Oknoti beams with a joyful laugh sounding as she realizes she has successfully recruited a personal chef for her journey. Isabel is overwhelmed with emotion and stands in stunned silence at the girl's sudden kindness.
The brown-haired woman blushes deeply and offers her sincere thanks to Oknoti for the second chance.
Myung-ho watches from the shadows while noting that even the honorable can gain wisdom from defeat, predicting a bright future for the guild.
The monk prepares to announce the results while a system window confirms everyone successfully survived the landslide event with a sharp ding sounding.
Blue system windows detail the rewards of unlocking the intuition skill as Oknoti reflects on the importance of subconscious warnings. Oknoti giggles mischievously about her good luck in finding a chef while Isabel watches her with a confused and slightly unnerved expression.
Myung-ho addresses the remaining candidates and announces that exactly 185 people will advance to the second round of the exam.
The remaining examinees, including the pirate hat boy and the golden-haired youth, listen intently to the monk's address. Irene stands among the crowd with her arms crossed, looking cold and detached as she waits for the next stage.
Myung-ho explains that the true purpose of the stone tower stocking was to prove independence and self-direction rather than just a mindless ritual.
The monk gestures toward the crowd with a sudden wave sounding while telling the candidates to go forth and prove their worth to the academy.
A brilliant light flashes with a sudden shimmer sounding as the monk mentions that there are special exceptions to the standard results.
Oknoti is caught completely off guard by the announcement and reacts with a sudden bang sounding.
Myung-ho strokes his beard while noting that a certain candidate displayed exceptional skills and also showed unexpected mercy during the chaos. Oknoti looks incredibly uncomfortable and sweats nervously as she is publicly identified as the top scorer of the first round. The announcement of Oknoti's top score draws sharp and intrigued glances from both Irene and the golden-haired Jadis.
Hector grins with a menacing look as he towers over the small girl who is now the center of everyone's attention. Oknoti panics and squeezes her eyes shut while begging the other candidates not to stare at her.
Oknoti hides behind the Beastman as Myung-ho offers her the privilege of an immediate pass to the next stage.
The Beastman and Oknoti's companions celebrate her success with a loud cheer sounding while telling her she truly deserves it. Oknoti surprises everyone by firmly refusing the offer with a sudden flash sounding. The monk is left completely speechless and bewildered by the girl's rejection of such a massive advantage.
Oknoti explains that if she took the pass, she would be leaving her companions behind to face the challenges alone.
Her companions are moved to silence and look at her with expressions of shock and deep respect.
The brown-haired man asks Oknoti why she would ever think they would abandon her as she listens with a somber look.
Oknoti looks away while reflecting on her past and stating that being left behind is simply how she has always lived. A memory flashes of candidates arguing and turning on each other after falling for a trap, highlighting Oknoti's fear of betrayal. The group stands in the heat of a burning resolve while the Beastman and companions process the girl's heartbreaking admission. Myung-ho sighs and accepts Oknoti's decision to proceed with the others if that is truly what she wants. Oknoti returns to her usual curious self and wonders where the next stage of the grueling exam will take them. A mysterious figure wearing a dark cape and hat walks alone through the dense forest toward the examinees. The stranger is revealed to be wearing a mask and grins with a sudden flash sounding as he prepares to interfere with the exam. A massive crowd of examinees gathers before a monumental stone gate as the next phase of the trial looms. Oknoti looks up with a worried expression as a heavy boot steps down with a sudden thud sounding to signal the start of a new challenge.
Minerva introduces herself as the proctor of the second gate, known as Hunter's Forest.
Examinees admire the proctor's cool mask and voice, while Oknoti grumbles about her bad luck with a sudden twitch sounding.
Minerva explains that the test is an endurance marathon and a search challenge where bonus points can be earned.
The proctor warns that candidates with low scores are disqualified and mentions the harsh penalties for killing others with a soft huh sounding. Oknadi regrets her choices as the proctor notes that points can be stolen by ripping ticket watches off other contestants. The proctor suddenly announces the start of the test and bolts forward, leaving the examinees in total shock. Minerva disappears into the forest with a sudden whoosh sounding as candidates realize she is moving far too fast to catch. The monkey beastman offers Oknadi a piggyback ride to keep up, but she flatly rejects the offer. Sun Oh-chun and Isabel note that taking time for bonus tasks will make it nearly impossible to catch up to the examiner. Sun Oh-chun worries that candidates with high scores will soon become prime targets for point hunters.
The brown-haired man asks Oknadi for her final decision on how their group should proceed through the forest.
Candidates like the black-haired man and Irene consider whether they should hunt others or focus on farming points themselves.
Narrative text notes the high risks involved for any team attempting to farm points during the chaotic exam.
Jadis and the Pirate Hot Boys sprint ahead among the crowd of runners as the competition intensifies. Sun Oh-chun addresses Isabel while the group maintains a steady pace during the grueling endurance run.
Oknadi catches her companions off guard by suddenly asking if anyone has bug spray.
The girl produces a spray can and begins applying it to herself with a sudden hiss sounding. Oknadi hands the can to Sun Oh-chun with a sudden tap sounding while telling everyone to use it immediately. The group follows her lead and sprays themselves with a sudden hiss sounding while Oknadi hints at a secret reason for her request.
Oknadi remembers another item and begins rummaging through her pack with a soft rustle sounding.
The girl presents a pouch of colorful treats with a sudden shimmer sounding while asking if anyone is hungry. The monkey beastman happily accepts the offer and pops one of the candies into his mouth.
His expression shifts to pure agony as he immediately spits the candy back out with a sudden spit sounding.
The beastman is horrified to learn it was poison candy, though Oknadi claims she is perfectly fine eating them. Isabel curiously asks for a piece of the candy despite the beastman's violent and disgusted reaction. Sun Oh-chun also takes a treat while Isabel prepares to taste the special candy from the girl's pouch. Both Sun Oh-chun and Isabel are overcome with sickness and immediately reject the toxic treats with a sudden retch sounding.
Oknadi becomes furious and shouts at her companions for wasting the candy she generously offered them.
The girl explains that her maid told her to savor the candies because they were special gifts.
Oknadi huffs and runs ahead with a rapid patter sounding while her companions struggle to follow. The Beastman and Sun Oh-chun discuss Oknadi's mysterious background while dismissing her as a simple pawn.
Sun Oh-chun's eyes flash with a sinister purple light as he states that her family is the true problem.
The Beastman wonders if they should steal the candy pouch, but Isabel rejects the idea as unnecessary. Oknadi continues to lead the way through the forest, clearly possessing a high level of poison resistance. Isabel reflects on how the girl must have been raised with lethal toxins to be this comfortable with them. Oknadi looks back at the group and asks if they are ready to break off from the main path.
The monkey beastman is thrilled to realize she wants to prioritize finding side quests for extra points.
Sun Oh-chun asks if she is worried about being hunted, but Oknadi mocks his fear instead.
Oknadi mentions specific target points with a sudden gasp sounding as she notices Sun Oh-chun's startled reaction.
A vision of Oknadi's intense childhood training appears as she sprints through the woods with a sudden thud sounding.
Sun Oh-chun offers a friendly smile and claims he was merely worried about the young girl's well-being.
Oknadi leads the charge toward their new objective with a rapid patter sounding as the group picks up speed.
The group arrives at a wooden signpost with a sudden thud sounding while narrative text notes everyone's unique personalities.
Oknadi announces they have found a side quest while the narrator categorizes candidates as either good or nasty.
A close-up of the sign details the quest to capture a rare white-tailed mongoose and return it to the base camp.
Trainers in camo uniforms stand ready at the camp, promising points for the first 10 candidates to finish.
The Beastman asks for a description of the creature and questions Isabel's knowledge of local animals.
The monkey Beastman admits he knows nothing of such creatures while Isabel looks on with visible exasperation.
Isabel provides an illustrated lesson explaining that white-tailed mongooses are the rare and elusive leaders of their packs.
Oknadi claps excitedly as the brown-haired woman clears her throat with a sudden, sharp ahem sounding.
Sun Oh-chun clenches his fist and confidently states they have everything they need to proceed.
A spiky-haired examinee mocks the weakness of a common mongoose while the Beastman looks on with confusion. A limp brown mongoose dangles helplessly. The arrogant examinee calls the creature useless and tosses it away with a sudden, sharp wheck sounding. Oknadi catches the falling animal with a sudden rhythmic snap and grab sounding. The man mocks Oknadi for her choice before pausing as if realizing something is amiss.
A dark aura surrounds Oknadi as she notices several examinees staring with glowing, predatory eyes.
Sun Oh-chun rests a heavy hand on her head with a sudden, heavy tyuk sounding while noting she fell for a fake creature.
The Beastman laughs about Oknadi's growth spurt as the brown-haired man wonders if she caught it for food. The brown-haired man asks if she truly intends to eat it, as Oknadi admits it might not be a bad idea.
Oknadi suggests catching many more as a creepy, glowing energy fills her wide-eyed expression.
The group stands before a growing pile of brown mongooses while Isabel mentions she is capable of cooking them.
Oknoti adds to the pile with a sudden, dull tuck, sounding as her companion asks if this is getting excessive.
Oknoti claims she is catching half for the test as Isabel points out that only white-tailed mongooses are valid. Oknoti tops a nearby tree with a sudden, dull tuck sounding and confidently states she can make it work.
The girl grins mischievously and announces she has finally found what she was looking for. Sun O-chun prepares his spear with a sudden, sharp chuck sounding as Oknoti asks him to crack the tree bark.
The beastman strikes the massive trunk with a sudden, loud chwok sounding. Her companions are shocked and impressed by how clever the young girl is being during the stressful exam. Narrative text notes Oknoti's impressive cleverness as white sap drips from the tree with a sudden, steady jururuk sounding.
Sun O-chun praises her quick thinking as Oknoti smears the sticky sap with a sudden, wet chichuk sounding.
5 trainers in camo uniforms and red cops stand together, looking stoic and observant. Oknoti proudly presents her white-tailed mongoose with a sudden, bright jan sounding. A trainer looks incredibly stressed and suggests asking the examiner directly as Oknoti offers him the critter. Proctor Minerva is a ranger type who values creative problem-solving and survival instincts. Oknoti watches the confused and sweating trainers with a smug, knowing look. A trainer wipes his brow and announces that all 4 of them pass because the examiner enjoyed the clever trick. Oknoti cheers with a ha sounding while Isabel warns her not to relax too soon. A group of menacing examinees with glowing eyes watch them and note that the real challenge is just starting.
Sun O-chun slams his spear into the ground with a sudden, heavy kwang sounding to ward off potential attackers. The beastman stares them down with a sudden, crackling jarit and low cuckoo sounding.
A black-haired man and his team back away as they realize targeting Oknoti's group would be too difficult.
Sun O-chun laughs about being hired while the brown-haired man suggests he buy another round of drinks.
The beastman pulls out a flask with a sudden seuk and sloshing chilang sounding while noting that good booze costs extra.
Oknoti is shocked to learn the flask contained alcohol and wonders how much she must drink for a food log entry.
Oknoti walks alone through the forest with a quiet, thoughtful expression. A table is set with food and bottles during a quiet moment of reflection. A woman splashes her drink with a sudden, wet chwok sounding while complaining about her low tolerance. The brown-haired man scolds the beastman for offering alcohol to kids as Oknoti huffs about her lack of food. Oknoti stares intensely at the flask with a sudden, quiet ponhi sounding while planning to take it later. The girl becomes obsessed with her food collection as fire burns in her determined eyes. Sun O-chun asks if she is worried about getting lost as she reacts with a sudden, breezy hui sounding. The beastman notes the front group is gone, but Oknoti simply suggests tracking them. Oknoti smirks with a sudden, quiet pishik sounding while stating she has plenty of leads to follow. The girl points the way forward and announces that it is time for them to move. A system notification appears with a sudden digital deering sounding to confirm she has found the vanguard's tracks.
Sun O-chun asks if she actually has hunting experience as Oknoti gives him a tired, obvious look.
The beastman mocks her size, but Oknoti reveals she hunts monsters and sometimes even people. Oknoti laughs and calls it a bad joke as her companions stare at her in terrified silence. Oknoti is startled as a hand rests on her shoulder accompanied by a sudden quick tap sounding.
Isabel assures the girl that she won't have to struggle alone anymore, as Oknoti wonders if her companions have misunderstood her intentions regarding the mongooses. The girl excitedly suggests ambushing other examinees to secure their victory, while Isabel promises that the older members of the group will handle the heavy lifting.
Oknoti looks up with genuine concern and asks what will happen if one of her new friends gets hurt during the combat.
Isabel is visibly taken aback by the young girl's unexpected display of empathy.
The short-haired woman reflects on how incredibly naive the young candidate appears to be despite her skills.
Isabel
is moved to tears by the girl's kindness with a sudden, sharp sniff sounding as Oknoti secretly hopes her tough act will get her out of cooking duties. The armored woman invites Oknoti to call her sis while the girl remains confused by the sudden emotional shift. Oknoti asks if her companion is crying as Isabel turns away to hide her face, touched by the girl's purity.
Isabel stares into the distance as she begins to piece together the likely nature of Oknoti's brutal upbringing.
A dark vision of a younger Oknoti standing over defeated foes appears as the narrative confirms she underwent intense assassin training. The narrative text emphasizes the tragedy of a child being forced to hunt other humans at such a tender age. Isabel breaks down into dramatic sobs for the poor thing while a deadpan Oknoti watches with total confusion. The woman is convinced that Oknoti is helping her now because of a kind heart that managed to survive a dark and rough past. The group continues their trek through the mountains as the sun begins to set, and Sun O-chun suggests taking a well-deserved break. The monkey beastman and Oknoti are thrilled by the prospect of finally cooking and eating the mongoose meat they collected. Isabel takes charge of the campsite and orders the 2 energetic companions to go gather firewood for the meal.
Sun Oh-chun pulls Isabel aside for a private conversation as the others run off into the woods.
The man asks if Isabel is truly committed to helping the young girl, and she wonders if her protectiveness is that obvious.
Sun Oh-chun surprises his companion by stating that he also intends to look out for Oknoti.
Isabel explains that she owes Oknoti her life and will help her even if the girl's powerful backers are intimidating, causing Sun Oh-chun to realize how serious she is.
The woman notes that she couldn't stop the determined man even if she tried, while Oknoti and the beast man returned with a massive pile of wood.
Sun Oh-chun sighs and wonders where he should even begin with his own explanation. The scene shifts as an unknown narrator prepares to reveal the secrets of the group traveling with Oknoti.
A menacing silhouette of a tall man with a monocle and a stern-looking green-haired maid appears amidst a swirling dark mist.
Someone expertly prepares ingredients with a sudden, sharp slice sounding, while noting that Oknoti was skilled enough to easily evade guards on an airship. Isabel remarks that Oknoti is an amazing child in both impressive and heartbreaking ways, while Sun Oh-chun listens intently.
While cooking, Isabel mentioned she just turned 18 and only learned survival skills to be useful to others, then asks if he is missing any items from his pack.
Sun Oh-chun reveals his checkered past as a ticket scalper and admits that while he made good money, it wasn't a life to be proud of.
Isabel notes that she seems to have gotten herself involved with a very remarkable group of people as Sun Oh-chun smirks. The scene pulls back to show the quiet campfire burning in the middle of the dark forest. Oknoti and the Beastman eavesdrop from the bushes as the girl wonders if their companions are actually dating.
Isabel catches the duo spying and tells them to stop talking nonsense and bring the firewood over immediately.
A system notification appears to confirm that a new sap-pickled mongoose recipe has been added to the girl's collection as the fire crackles with a sudden quick top sounding. Oknoti happily devours the roasted meat as sparkles of joy surround her.
Isabel smiles warmly as she watches her friends enjoy the meal she prepared under the starry night sky.
The Beastman suddenly tenses up and warns that a group is approaching, likely lured by the scent of their cooking fire.
A shadow looms over the camp as a stranger approaches with a sudden heavy thud sounding.
A man in green finery arrives and asks if they were the ones who cooked the delicious-smelling meat.
Sun Oh-chun demands to know why the Western Noble Alliance is bothering them as the Beastman growls a warning.
A man in a blue coat raises his hands and insists that his group has not come to start a fight.
The monkey Beastman bares his fangs and asks what they want if they aren't looking for a confrontation.
The lead noble, Anthony, sheepishly asks to be taught how to make a campfire because his group is hungry and wants to eat meat too.
Oknoti and Isabel stare at the entitled noble with expressions of pure, deadpan judgment.
Anthony becomes defensive and shouts at them not to look at him that way before introducing himself as a high-ranking noble swordsman.
The nobles offer to pay for help but insult the group by calling them lowly commoners who should be used to doing manual labor. Oknoti stands up with a sudden heavy thud sounding and coldly decides that it is time for her group to leave these people behind.
The Beastman and Sun Oh-chun laugh as they agree that they have no intention of helping anyone with such a massive sense of entitlement. The Beastman takes a deep, powerful breath as he prepares a special technique.
A massive gale of wind erupts with a sudden breezy whee sounding as the Beastman blows the group of arrogant nobles away from their campsite. The Beastman mocks the noble for his wounded pride and tells him he should be grateful that his honor was preserved at all. High-ranking nobles argue about excluding the Yutao family from the Harvest Festival, while the young boy sobs and offers a sincere apology.
Oknoti watches the child cry and realizes that his distress is actually beginning to soften her heart.
A blonde-haired man in a blue coat steps forward with a commanding presence and orders the group to stop their bickering.
The blonde man is revealed as Anderson Pressel, the leader of the Western Noble Alliance, catching Oknoti's attention. Anderson lectures the Yutao boy on the burden of noble responsibility before granting him a final chance to redeem himself.
The boy tearfully apologizes to Oknoti for his earlier rudeness while she watches him with a skeptical, deadpan expression. Oknoti points a finger and reminds the boy that everyone is equal at the academy and that he must be more careful with his words.
The girl offers to forgive him in exchange for any snacks he might have saved, causing the boy to brighten up with a hopeful look.
The boy eagerly searches his pockets while announcing that he has some emergency family rations to share.
He presents a bundle of delicious fried bread, and Oknoti is immediately overwhelmed with sparkles of pure joy. While eating, Oknoti reflects on how nobles name themselves after dishes and wonders what kind of food family her papa would belong to. Oknoti imagines her name being associated with sticky rice or kimchi but dismisses the idea as too traditional, while Isabel looks on in confusion.
Sun Oh-chun and the Beastman remark on the girl's kind heart, noting how easily she won over the group.
Isabel gently pats Oknoti's head and expresses her hope that the young girl will manage to keep her kind nature as she grows up.
A system notification appears to confirm that Yutao has been added to her recipe collection, as Oknoti wonders how much longer she can act like a good girl.
The companions share a warm laugh together under the soft glow of the evening light. Morning dawning finds the group sound asleep in their sleeping bags around the remains of the campfire. Oknoti wakes up with a sudden, sharp jolt as a piercing scream echoes through the forest. The group prepares to move as they learn about a second quest occurring nearby.
Sun Oh-chan notes the proximity of the next challenge, while the Beastman reacts with excitement.
The monkey Beastman is eager to participate in the second quest, and Sun Oh-chan agrees that it sounds like fun.
Isabel looks toward the source of the noise with concern, noting that the screams from the other examinees are not stopping.
The armored woman suggests they find out the nature of the quest first, as Oknoti approaches with a steady step. Oknoti smirks and reminds them that they still need more points to secure their position, which Isabel reluctantly acknowledges.
Anderson Pressel stands nearby with a stoic expression, observing the chaos of the nearby quest. Anderson orders his team to prepare for movement, and his subordinate responds with eager compliance.
The noble leader thanks Sun Oh-chan for the earlier assistance, but the man dismisses the gratitude with a polite smile. Anderson informs Oknoti that his group will be splitting off here, and she gives him a casual shrug-like acknowledgement.
As the Noble Alliance moves out, Oknoti's name is called out by the departing group.
Isabel asks if their own group should start moving, and Oknoti gives a cheerful nod of agreement.
The four companions walk through the dense forest toward a clearing where a large crowd of examinees has gathered.
A muscular trainer in camo and a red cap sits at a wooden table and announces that they have finally arrived.
The proctor explains that the quest is a contest to snatch a golden ball in the center worth 40 points, but warns that there are no retries.
Sun Oh-chan reflects on the brutal nature of the quest, which seems designed to reward the many by punishing the few.
Sun Oh-chan asks for Oknoti's decision, and she decides they should decline because their group of four is already too conspicuous to find allies.
The Beastman suggests he is fine with going solo, but Oknoti remains firm in her caution.
Isabel confirms their trust in the girl's judgment as Oknoti happily announces that they will quit this quest, cool and simple. Oknoti repeats her desire to just skip the challenge and move on without unnecessary risks. The Beastman is baffled and argues that he could easily wipe the floor with the other examinees even if he fought them alone.
The monkey warrior looks back at a group of trembling and nervous examinees to prove his point. Oknoti uses her cute charms to ask the Beastman to trust her just this once, leaving him speechless.
The Beastman grinds his teeth and looks away, clearly frustrated by her request.
The warrior eventually sighs and admits that based on the first exam, Oknoti's instincts are far superior to his own gut feelings. The Beastman laughs and decides to let it slide, while Oknoti huffs about having to practically beg for his cooperation.
Oknoti reveals the real reason she stopped them was the small chance of a trap as the scene shifts to a menacing figure in a cat mask.
The girl notes that getting greedy for points is a stupid way to lose everything while the masked person watches from the shadows.
A group of examinees is caught in a web of thorny vines, screaming in pain and begging to be released. The girl in the cat mask giggles and asks how they could have possibly known that her group had teamed up to set an ambush.
The masked girl reveals that she was planning to mousetrap any group that arrived regardless of their numbers as the captives watch in horror. A victim screams in pain as the masked girl takes their points with a sudden, firm grip.
The masked girl mocks her defeated opponent by telling them to take the re-exam while she laughs at their misfortune.
A group of examinees falls helplessly into a dark trap while shouting out in terror.
The cat-masked girl casually picks her ear as she notes her point total has increased.
A system notification confirms that Jizwang has successfully looted a glowing orb for a massive point boost.
Zhuang holds the radiant orb aloft as a message confirms she has officially passed the score threshold.
A lingering thought ponders the true identity of the mysterious child.
Oknoti adjusts her pink hair bow as the masked girl reflects on the blonde girl's razor-sharp instincts.
The hidden observer wonders how anyone could have figured her out before she even began her tricks.
A smug grin spreads across the masked girl's face. Well, that's one way to keep your game face on. Jizwang resolves to question the group the next time they meet while she continues to hold the glowing orb. The cat-masked girl wonders if Oknoti is also a trained assassin as she slips away into the forest.
Zhuang stands silently in the woods and scratches her arm with an indifferent expression.
A voice questions how she avoided the forest swarming insects as a mosquito flies nearby. An immense crowd of examinees gathers in a sun-drenched forest clearing.
Instructors in camouflage announce that a game of tag is the next challenge and order everyone to gather around.
Sun Oh-chan and the Beastman note the massive crowd size with a sudden, annoyed chus sounding.
Oknoti shrugs and remarks that everyone is desperate for a final chance to qualify. Panic rises in the crowd as examinees fight to participate in the final quest and reach the cutoff point. Oknoti smirks and decides to participate for the points as the instructor tells the group to review the rules. A wooden board lists the specific rules for point gains, losses, and ending the tag quest.
Isabel asks why the rules are so complicated while her companions look on in confusion.
Oknoti tells the Beastman to only focus on the 5th and 6th rules while he reacts with surprise.
The blonde girl winks and gives a confident thumbs up while asking her friends to trust her once more. The group is instantly charmed by the girl's cute demeanor. The instructor announces that examinees can trade their points for various supplies and medical care. Isabel and the Beastman realize their points are now a currency and wonder if their earlier efforts were wasted.
Oknoti shakes her head and notes that they can now earn and spend points at the same time.
The Beastman admits that having a point lead is actually a huge benefit for the upcoming game. Oknoti runs toward the instructor and asks if she can buy a specific item or service.
The girl and the muscular instructor stare at each other with curious expressions.
Oknoti reaches up and pulls on the man's vest while asking him to lean down.
The blonde girl whispers a secret question into the instructor's ear as she covers her mouth.
Oknoti continues her hushed inquiry while the instructor listens intently to her request.
The instructor hums thoughtfully as he considers the girl's proposal.
The man tells her to wait a moment while Oknoti looks up with a worried, questioning face.
The instructor begins reporting her request into his communication device.
Oknoti watches with a blank expression as the instructor continues his mysterious conversation.
The large man approaches the girl after finishing his report. The instructor hands Oknoti an earpiece and explains that the chief examiner wants to speak to her directly.
A system notification confirms the activation of a communication spell as Oknoti accepts the device. Oknoti puts on the headset and tentatively greets the person on the other side. A voice asks if she has ever used such magic before, as Oknoti realizes she answered like it was a phone call. The chief examiner admits she is impressed by the girl's creativity, while Oknoti covers her face in embarrassment. Oknoti boasts about her own greatness as the examiner notes that she lacks humility. Apparently, confidence is the only thing she doesn't need to buy.
The examiner initially refuses the girl's request while her companions watch her talk to herself in confusion.
A thought bubble expresses the girl's desire to at least give her idea a shot. The masked examiner smiles and decides to sell the item for 10 points out of respect for her ingenuity.
Oknoti cheers in triumph as she successfully negotiates a deal with the examiner. San Ochan laughs and praises Oknoti for being such an extraordinary and impressive person.
Oknoti smirks and remarks that he actually bought a single-use permit to become a black hat instructor. The Beastman asks if that is really impressive, and San Ochan tells him to think about it. San Ochan explains that the tag game continues forever if the instructor is not found. Oknoti asks where the tagger would hide, and the Beastman suggests staying near the instructor to draw others in. San Ochan smiles and gives a thumbs up while exclaiming, "That is it!"
Sun O-chun explains that the game is not about running from the tagger, but about breaking past the taggers lurking around the instructor.
The Beastman notes she set it up to bail herself out anytime she likes, and Oknoti asks if they finally see how great she is. Isabel smiles and calls Oknoti a genius while patting her head, which makes the blonde girl giggle happily. Oknoti laughs and notes that if one of them is picked as a tagger, they will still have to catch the other runners. A group of 4 examinees, led by a man in a blue coat, approaches the companions. The man asks if she is the kid named Oknoti, and the girl tilts her head while asking who he is. The man in the blue coat gestures to a red, swollen spot on his hand while looking at the group. Oknoti looks surprised and asks if he is really serious. The girl asks who Max is, causing the man to sigh and lament that he was not even on her radar. Maximus asks if she boarded the airship on the way there, causing Oknoti to have a sudden realization while Isabel watches. Oknoti recalls meeting 2 children and asks the man if he was the one holding the kid. Maximus smiles and explains that the kid asked him to look after her. Maximus scratches his wrist and explains that there is a nasty trap in this task. Oknoti asks if he means mosquitoes, and the man explains that they are a trap, but not the specific one he means.
The dark-haired man tells her to think hard because the challenge is just an illusion.
The man asks her how she even knows the black hat instructor is nearby.
Maximus asks how she knows where the instructor is, while her 3 companions react with shock. The man reflects on the rule, stating they can only leave through the exit after ending the tag game. Maximus points an accusing finger and tells the group that they are all basically trapped in the forest. Oknoti notes that the man is pretty sharp as she reflects on the real trick of the bonus tag game. A muscular instructor with a glowing red eye looks over his shoulder with a menacing expression. Oknoti stands among a group of examinees as glowing embers float through the air. Oknoti reflects on the standard strategy of scouting for the instructor in the center of the forest to charge through. A thought bubble suggests ticking off Minerva to force her to provide a hint as a man watches people miss their attacks. Oknoti sticks out her tongue and orders the instructor to return to her location, infuriating a masked woman. Sun Ochan laughs and notes that she is in a bind now while the Beastman looks on skeptically. Maximus lectures the girl and tells her that she would have gotten through fair and square if she had just listened. A notification registers Oknoti for the hide-and-seek challenge as she touches a glowing board, making Maximus scream in frustration. Oknoti ignores the man and tells her group to move quickly while Maximus is dragged away by his allies. Isabel touches the glowing registration board and apologizes to Maximus as she follows the girl. Oknoti walks forward with her group while thinking that they simply got lucky. The 4 companions walk down a forest path as the sunlight filters through the trees.
Sun Oh-chun asks if she is sure she will be okay, and the girl dismisses his concern by saying it is fine.
Okanodi smiles brightly and explains that she was at 0 points anyway, and their group only had one person end up as a tagger.
Okanodi reflects that if everyone had been picked, they would have wasted too much time chasing runners.
Isabel says they need to help the girl find a runner fast, but the Beastman wonders how since everyone has seemingly vanished. Okanodi smirks and tells her friends that they have not all quite disappeared yet.
Sun Oh-chun asks Okanodi what she is doing as she walks away from the group.
The blonde girl walks toward a pile of dry branches and debris on the forest floor. Okanodi peers into the pile and claims she is just checking for fruit while a hidden figure watches her.
An orange-haired girl leaps out of the hiding spot and claims she dodged the attempt as Okanodi greets her cheerfully.
The orange-haired examinee tumble rolls through the air with a series of quick acrobatic movements. The girl stands up and shouts at Okanodi, asking if she knew she was there from the very start.
Okanodi shrugs and remarks that it was not a bad disguise, but her own instincts would never fall for such a trick.
The orange-haired girl approaches and admits that this is the first time anyone has seen through her act so perfectly. The mysterious girl looks up with glowing green eyes and asks Okanodi if they should shake on it.
Dorothy reaches out and shakes Okanodi's hands. Dorothy cheers and reveals that the handshake successfully transferred the tag.
Dorothy gleefully declares Okanodi the tagger, but the blonde girl questions her intelligence.
Okanodi smirks and asks what the consequences are for a tagger tagging another tagger.
Dorothy is frozen in shock at the girl's leading question.
The orange-haired girl trembles as a secret rule about taggers stealing points is revealed.
A notification explains that the rule allows points to go into the negative. Okanodi's score resets to 0 while Dorothy collapses in despair as her points plummet. Dorothy rages against the absurdity of a tiger cooperating with runners. A footstep sounds as a voice asks why such a setup is surprising.
A voice proclaims that they are operating as a true team.
Okanodi stands triumphantly with her 3 companions in a glowing light. Dorothy stares up at the group with a stunned expression. The orange-haired girl blushes and admits she has been completely outplayed. Dorothy grips her arm and laments that her own friends lacked such loyalty. Dorothy explains how her former allies betrayed her because they had no use for a forest keeper.
A memory shows Dorothy watching her former group abandon her after tagging her.
Okanodi asks for the direction of the betrayers, and Dorothy points toward a specific duo.
Hushed voices describe the targets as a merchant's daughter and her childhood friend.
Dorothy confirms that her former team was part of a merchant party. Okanodi reflects on how familiar the situation feels while her friends look on. Okanodi decides to share a secret tip as a reward for the information.
Dorothy is left speechless after Okanodi whispers a shocking revelation into her ear.
The orange-haired girl stands frozen as the group begins to depart. Dorothy wonders aloud why Okanodi would even bother giving her advice. Odanadi touches her chin and gives a vague answer as they walk away. Okanodi smiles and admits she simply enjoys helping when she can. Dorothy watches the companions vanish into the trees. The girl offers a polite bow to the group's departing figures.
Dorothy turns and heads in the opposite direction.
Okanodi leads her team across a field of footprints to track the frontrunners.
A system notification confirms Okanodi gained tracking experience as a branch snaps nearby.
Isabel expresses doubt about finding Dorothy's former party in the massive forest.
Okanodi's attention is caught by something as she gestures toward a distant grove. Sun Oh-chun identifies a fork in the path while the Beastman cheers for the easier route. Okanodi immediately shuts down the Beastman's suggestion with a flat refusal. Okanodi explains that earning points is less important than a different hidden objective. The blonde girl raises a fist while her companions react with visible confusion and sweat. Isabel points out that some of the forest's insects are dangerous disease carriers. Okanodi plots to use the insects for poison resistance training, terrifying the men. The Beastman and Sun Oh-chun eagerly volunteer for physical labor to appease Okanodi. Okanodi is puzzled by the sudden and dramatic spike in their cooperation.
A masked instructor leaps through the air as a whistle sounds.
The black hat instructor announces the beginning of a 2-hour rest period. Examinees collapse in exhaustion as the instructor encourages hunting or side quests. Okanodi thanks Sun Oh-chun for the ride as he struggles to catch his breath. The Beastman observes the Vanguard group's efficiency while Sun Oh-chun collapses in the grass. Examinees tremble with indecision over whether to risk attempting the side quests. Sun Oh-chun notes that the most fearful individuals are the ones at the front.
Okanodi identifies Duchess Irene and Xing as the only 2 who seem truly composed.
A spin sound resonates as Jigoku twirls her revolver. A sharp cocking sound echoes through the woods. Bang bang! Jigoku shoots into the air while cowering examinees collapse in fear. Okanodi watches the dangerous pirate shoot birds out of the sky and realizes crossing her path could mean death.
Sun Oh-chun explains that people call the pirate the beast from hell, making the Beastman wonder why a criminal is taking the exam.
Rhythmic footsteps sound as the red-haired pirate walks directly toward a startled Okanodi. Jigoku holds out a brace of dead birds to the confused blonde girl. The pirate smiles and tells the kid to eat up so she can grow strong. A voice instructs Okanodi to call her sis and keep that relationship a secret. A soft pat sounds as Okanodi accepts the birds while stammering her thanks. Sun Oh-chun checks on the dazed girl as Jigoku casually walks away.
Ognodi drools over the gift and decides that Jigoku is actually a wonderful person.
The Beastman and Sun Oh-chan are shocked by how easily food won her over, while Isabel asks if that is why Ognodi likes her. Ognodi wipes her mouth while her companions look on with sweat-dropped expressions.
Sun Oh-chan points toward their targets and notes he already found them as a notification for a betrayer event appears.
A system window announces that it is time to show the betrayers what karma means. A hand points at a group of students as a window suggests that those without money can always use bribes to buy silence.
Ognodi realizes that being a merchant's daughter is the girl's specialty and wonders if she really is a merchant.
Ognodi asks how he located them, and Sun Oh-chun explains he identified them by their expressions.
The man notes that guilt has its own look as the green-haired girl and her friend look away uneasily. The Beastman is impressed as Sun Oh-chan explains that reading emotions is a basic skill for any merchant. Ognodi realizes that faces reveal much more than people think and suddenly remembers the duo.
A memory reveals that the green-haired Yui and her friend Rockfell were always the supporting duo during forest training. A light thud follows as Ognodi hands her birds to Isabel and notes the duo would normally breeze through the test. Rhythmic footsteps sound as Ognodi runs forward and thinks that their luck changed because she got involved.
A firm grip sounds as Sun Oh-chan holds the Beastman back to watch the situation unfold.
Ognodi rushes up to the green-haired girl who reacts with surprise.
Yui condescendingly asks what the little girl wants, but Rockfell sighs and tells her they cannot help because they are out of options.
Ognodi smirks and asks if they also refuse to help Dorothy, sending the duo into a state of visible shock.
Yui asks how she knows that while Rockfell realizes the girl must have encountered Dorothy.
Ognodi confirms it as she recalls the game's mechanics regarding favorability events. A notification explains that clearing Yui's event leads to her abandoning Rockfell for the main character in an infamous betrayal event. Ognodi watches the duo and finally understands why Rockfell is always treated like a pushover. Ognodi reflects that their current distress is just guilt over ditching a friend as Rockfell collapses while admitting he deserves whatever happens.
Yui feigns tears for poor Dorothy while Rockfell mopes in silence.
Ognodi smiles menacingly and asks herself what she should do with these two betrayers.
A loud slap echoes as Ognodi strikes Yui's back while shouting for her to take it.
Yui is left dazed as a sudden sharp beep rings out from her gear.
A heavy thump sounds as Yui screams in horror upon seeing her points reset to 0 after being tagged. Ognodi smiles brightly and admits she was the tagger all along. A voice questions if this punishment might be a bit too much for the girl. A narrative box explains that while Rockfell is consumed by guilt, the situation is different for his partner. Yui is shown quickly abandoning her shame to flirt with a new group of men.
Fast footsteps sound as Ognodi waves goodbye and tells them to suffer until they drop out for Dorothy's sake.
Yui panics and screams for Rockfell to grab Ognodi, but the boy looks back with a cold, hollow expression.
Yui is startled by his gaze as Rockfell reminds her of her own words about taggers.
Rockfell coldly echoes her sentiment that taggers are just baggage, and sometimes one must ditch their dearest friend. A heavy thud sounds as Yui falls to her knees and screams about what will happen if she is gone. A sharp snap sounds as Yui's expression turns twisted and she asks him if he can even find the instructor without her help. Ognodi pauses as Yui desperately offers 1,000 gold coins and her father's merchant guild influence if she helps her pass, but Ognodi is not tempted. Ognodi sticks out her tongue and playfully rejects a bribe, saying she already has plenty of money. A glowing blue light emanates as a black hat is summoned into a waiting hand. A notification explains the hat's power to end the tag game as Ognodi puts it on, realizing they no longer need the instructor. Rhythmic footsteps sound as the Beastman and Sun Oh-chun approach, questioning if her timing with the hat was too hasty. Ognodi adjusts the hat and explains her decision was made to give a certain person one final chance. A sharp sound rings out as Ognodi holds her hand out toward Rockfell and asks for his decision. The brown-haired boy stares at the offered hand in a daze of hesitation and disbelief.
A tap sounds as the group gathers around Ognodi, and a notification confirms Sun Oh-chun has successfully escaped the tag.
A desperate scream echoes through the forest as the green-haired girl realizes her situation is dire. Yui begs not to be abandoned and offers anything for help, while Roxelle looks on with a hollow, conflicted expression. A soft tap sounds as Ognodi smiles at Rockfell, and a system window confirms he has also escaped the tag.
A sudden dash sounds as Yui desperately chases after them, begging them to wait.
A light tap sounds as Ognodi winks and dismisses the girl, and a notification confirms she has escaped the tag herself. A system window announces that the black hat has been removed as the item's use concludes. The hat disintegrates into a dark mist in Ognodi's hand as she looks on with a satisfied smile. Trembling with shock, Yui asks why this is happening to her as her world crumbles. Ognodi looks back with a cold, piercing gaze and explains that this was purely for Dorothy's revenge. A heavy thump sounds as Yui collapses, and Ognodi adds that she only wants decent people as her future classmates.
Oknoti ponders the nature of her reward while reading a cryptic system notification. A smirk crosses Oknoti's face as she wonders what she would even do with guy points as a reward.
Oknoti shudders at the thought of unwanted affection from men, remembering a blue-haired man's disgusted face.
A light shrug sounds as Rockfell tells Oknoti there is no problem, looking up at her with a tired expression.
Oknoti waves her hands frantically, claiming she wanted to help, but questioning how he could help anyone if he couldn't help his friends. Rockfell sighs and agrees with her assessment, admitting that he is indeed the weakest person there.
A polite bow sounds as Rockfell bends low, promising Oknoti that he will never forget the kindness she showed him. Rhythmic footsteps sound as Rockfell walks away into the misty trees, leaving Oknoti to watch him in silence. The Beastman asks if her actions were too sentimental, but Oknoti simply replies that it is fine.
Oknoti scratches her head and notes that whatever happens next is entirely up to Dorothy.
Oknoti stares ahead with glowing blue eyes, ready for the next challenge. A status window reveals that Giselle, San-O-chun, and Isabel have all achieved a score of 72 points.
Oknoti stretches and declares their next move is to follow Minerva to the goal.
A soft chuckle sounds as the masked witch instructor smiles to herself, reflecting on Oknoti's performance.
Duchess Irene sits on the forest floor and complains about the freezing ground.
A quick glance sounds as Irene looks sideways with a judgmental expression, calling the others pathetic.
A long sigh sounds as exhausted examinees wish to drop out and complain about their extreme hunger.
A man asks Princess Irene if she is hungry, but she coldly tells him to stay out of her business. Irene remembers the shivering soldiers in the north and thinks about how the money for her ticket could have provided them warmth. A crunch sounds as Irene bites into a hard ration, ignoring a man's desperate offer to take his better food. Irene holds up her hand and tells the man she will simply accept his kind intentions instead of his food.
A somber vision of starving soldiers appears as Irene reflects on the hardships her people endure.
Irene chews her bland ration and notes she is used to bad food, but her ear suddenly twitches as a sizzling sound echoes. A delicious aroma wafts past Irene, causing her to drool as her composure begins to slip.
A sudden jump sounds as Irene stands up wide-eyed, demanding to know where that incredible smell is coming from.
A loud sizzle sounds as Isabel grills mushrooms on a large pan for her hungry teammates.
Irene stands frozen in shock as stars of hunger dance around her at the sight of the food.
San-O-chun turns with a smile and asks Princess Irene if she is there for the mushrooms.
Irene quickly turns away and bluffs, claiming she only wanted to see which rival was capable of finding food.
San-O-chun asks if she actually plans on eating, making Irene's eye twitch with suppressed hunger.
A firm point sounds as San-O-chun explains that the mushrooms were bought for a specific price. San-O-chun notes they charge a fee to keep nobles from expecting handouts, while Oknoti cheerily serves a plate of food to a nearby examinee.
Oknoti looks to the side and worries that the current situation could be a trap. Looking back with a start, Oknoti reacts with sudden alarm to an unexpected development.
Rhythmic footsteps sound as a pair of dark boots walks through the sunlit forest.
Oknoti stands before the brown-haired Irene, who looks down at the girl in complete surprise.
Staring up at the woman, Oknoti remains silent as Irene looks at her with confusion.
A bright smile crosses Oknoti's face as she beams with sudden, cheerful joy.
Oknoti offers a glowing blue orb while her teammates run in a comical panic behind her.
A frantic dash sounds as Isabel and Giselle carry a large purple candy while fleeing.
A man defends Oknoti's kind intentions, while the brown-haired woman remains skeptical and uneasy.
Irene shakes her head and dismisses the candy offer while claiming she wouldn't have eaten it.
Resting by a campfire where mushrooms are grilling, the group catches their breath after their ordeal. Looking frustrated, Oknoti regrets her failed attempt to bond with a main character.
San-O-chun provides necessary mosquito protection for Oknoti while noting it is time for a spray.
A soft spray sounds as the man applies repellent, causing Oknoti to wonder about his hatred for insects.
Winking playfully, Oknoti strikes a confident pose as she prepares to face the next challenge. The masked instructor Minerva appears before a crowd of students and commends them for keeping up.
Looking confused, the group of examinees wonders if they have finally reached their goal.
Minerva clarifies that she was simply praising their progress, leaving the group stunned and full of questions.
A sharp tap sounds as a foot steps onto a magic circle, triggering a 10-point penalty notification.
Giving a jaunty salute, Minerva announces her departure and begins to vanish through a portal.
Examinees realize that following the instructor was a mistake as she disappears into the light.
Rubbing her chin thoughtfully, Oknoti notes that their insect repellent will be very important now. 3 wooden signs stand in the forest, marking the different final paths available to the goal. A cheerful greeting sounds from a talking tree as it explains the various risks of the paths.
Appearing in a puff of smoke, a woman in a green cap offers to sell repellent for points.
A student considers purchasing protection from the merchant to avoid the mosquitoes ahead.
The muscular woman laughs loudly while explaining her strategy for maximizing ointment sales over spray.
Walking with confidence, the red-headed pirate girl suggests using a magic circle to block the insects.
A sharp beep sounds as the pirate girl's magic circle turns red, indicating venom prevents her teleportation.
Pointing and laughing, the beast man mocks the red-headed girl for her public failure and embarrassment.
A heavy snap sounds as the red-headed girl challenges Giselle to settle their dispute in private.
Sun Oh-chun looks skeptical, noting he has never heard of mosquito venom interfering with magic circles.
A vision of a wounded soldier appears as it is explained that teleportation is normally restricted for safety.
Oknoti questions if even a knowledgeable man like Sun Oh-chun has limits to his understanding.
Oknoti explains the danger of teleporting with poison in the system and how it spreads faster.
The group realizes that the trial is intended as a practical lesson for aspiring adventurers. Rhythmic footsteps sound as the group stands on a magic circle, explaining they were never bitten. A blue system window appears and confirms that 10 points have been deducted from their total.
Light flashes as the group successfully teleports, surprising Minerva, who waits at the destination.
Minerva commends the group for their impressive skill in avoiding every mosquito in the forest.
Laughing to herself, Minerva guesses that the group must have purchased expensive protective ointment. Leaning in close, Minerva notes that her sharp ranger senses can easily detect the spray repellent.
Isabel reacts with panic as Ognoti laughs nervously after being found out by the instructor.
With her arms wide, Minerva officially announces that the entire group has successfully passed the round.
Isabel celebrates their victory while a notification reveals that Giselle's score has been updated.
System windows reveal that Sun Oh-chun, Isabel, and Oknoti have all reached 112 points. Gesturing lazily, Minerva explains that reaching the finish line provided a baseline reward of 50 points. The ponytail man asks about the side quests, and Minerva clarifies the survival focus of the round.
Minerva adds that a real adventure requires managing a budget and using items with intelligence.
A loud laugh sounds as Minerva concludes her lesson on adventuring, which the man acknowledges.
Minerva asks Oknoti if she already knew the secret, but the girl simply shrugs and claims that being prepared for poisons is her specialty.
A low murmur sounds as Sun Oh-chun, Isabel, and Giselle whisper about the effectiveness of the poison candy and consider bringing samples back to their guild. Claiming she needs a break, Oknoti announces she is going to the bathroom while her teammates watch her with expressions of confusion and mild concern. A series of quick, light thumps sound as Oknoti skips happily toward a large wooden building nestled in the sunlit forest.
Moving with a sudden, quick dash, the tiny blonde girl sneaks around the side of the building toward the restroom area.
Relieved that she wasn't caught, Oknoti clutches a purple pouch and reflects on the benefits of completing extra quests as several glowing green, blue, and yellow stones appear.
Oknoti holds up a shining yellow stone and notes that these items lose their effectiveness once a particular stat reaches level 20.
A loud snap sounds as she crushes the stone, explaining that it is most efficient to consume small capstones first and save the larger ones for later.
Oknoti smiles brightly and tucks her pouch away, deciding to save the best rewards for the final challenge.
A startled gasp sounds as the girl freezes in terror when a voice from above asks her about her stone collecting hobby.
Perched on a thick tree branch, the man in the gray cap observes that Oknoti is strategically mature yet still behaves like a total child.
Shaking with fear, Oknoti looks on as the narration reveals that only experienced veterans know the true identity of the man before her.
The man in the cap looks down with a knowing smirk as it is revealed he is actually a familiar summoned by Minerva. Sweating profusely, Oknoti realizes that the instructor managed to completely fool her tracking skills while she was busy.
A spectral image of Minerva appears behind the man as he explains she is using shared vision and vocal projection magic to inhabit the body of the familiar.
Looking down with a silent, intense stare, the familiar tells Oknoti that he has encountered a candidate similar to her in the past. Oknoti asks if he means a rival stone collector, but the familiar quickly clarifies that he is referring to something else entirely. A heavy thump sounds as Oknoti's heart sinks when the familiar mentions her poison training and the existence of the High Foundation. Visions of masked agents appear as the familiar explains the Foundation is a group that sends trained agents to the academy, leading him to conclude that Oknoti is a scholarship candidate. The familiar asks about the Foundation's true goals, but Oknoti's face flushes with anger as she tells him not to speak poorly of her butler.
Tearing up, Oknoti reacts with distress when the familiar asks why the Foundation only recruits orphans, but she insists that she still has a father.
A loud wail sounds as Oknoti cries out, asking why everyone acts like she is alone, causing the familiar to scratch his head and offer an apology. Minerva watches through the familiar's eyes and notes that the child is not to blame for the Foundation's actions.
Rhythmic footsteps sound as Sun Oh-chun and Giselle walk through the forest, wondering where Oknoti has gone.
A soft sniffle sounds as Sun Oh-chun asks if she was crying, but Oknoti turns away with puffy red eyes and insists that she wasn't.
Giselle and Isabel grow furious and demand to know who made their teammate cry as they look around with menacing expressions.
A sharp pinch sounds as Isabel grabs Son Ochin's clothes and tells him that's enough questioning for now.
Isabel gently pats Oknoti's head to comfort her while Sun O-chun and Giselle slump over in the background with guilty expressions.
Reaching out with a kind smile, Isabel tells Oknoti it is okay and promises that the entire team is on her side.
Oknoti winces and notes that the cloth Isabel is using to wipe her face smells like sweat, prompting an embarrassed apology from the older girl.
Oknoti stares ahead with a pouty, overwhelmed expression as she tries to process her encounter with the instructor. A quick snap sounds as Sun O-chun pulls out several folding stools and suggests that the group should take a well-deserved break. Silence falls over the forest gate as Sun O-chun notes that it will take a considerable amount of time for the other examinees to reach the goal. A soft murmur sounds as the teammates rest in a clearing, waiting for the rest of the group to catch up. As the sun begins to set, the strongest supporting and main characters finally begin to arrive at the forest gate one by one. A faint hum of magic sounds as the most powerful examinees, including the Duchess and the Pirate Girl, arrive after using teleportation circles. A soft yawn sounds as the next day begins, showing Oknoti waking up on the forest floor with a sleepy, disoriented expression.
A weary groan sounds as the final examinees who took the long path or braved the mosquitoes finally collapse at the finish line.
Minerva watches the exhausted group from a distance with a silent, judgmental expression. A loud pop sounds as a magical flare signals the end of the round, and Minerva officially announces that the examination is over.
Minerva provides the final statistics, revealing that only 23 participants finished in time, while 13 others were too late.
A frustrated growl sounds as the red-haired girl learns that 149 participants either gave up or lost their status watches. Oknoti eats a snack and reflects on the fact that her team at least managed to tag the familiar during the exercise. Turning to a nearby girl with brown hair, Oknoti decides to offer her a piece of valuable advice as a returning tip. A soft whisper sounds as Oknoti tells the girl to return to the start and look for the instructor there, leaving the examinee in complete shock.
Giselle scratches his chin and asks why the participants who ran out of time were even summoned to the finish line if they were already out.
A dark smirk crosses Oknoti's face as the narration explains Minerva's method of separating the disqualified and the withdrawn. A man raises his fist and asks the instructor why the timeout students are present if they are supposedly disqualified. Picking her ear with a bored expression, Minerva clarifies that she never actually stated that the students who ran out of time were disqualified. The examinees react with joy as Minerva explains that the timeout students simply won't receive the 50-point bonus given to those who finished early. Oknoti and Isabel shake hands as their names are announced. A loud shout sounds as Sun O-chun celebrates his victory. Smiling warmly, Giselle acknowledges his successful results.
Minerva announces that Jizwang, Weather, and 6 others have also passed.
Minerva explains that while some are stronger fighters, adventure isn't just about combat and power.
Gesturing forward, Minerva leads the remaining 30 students toward the third exam venue.
The noble-looking girl with long dark hair pauses as if hearing something.
Oknoti laments losing her original friend group, but notes being the top scorer twice has everyone watching her. Giselle asks her what their next move should be.
Giselle remarks that being noticed was bound to happen as the group stands together. A rhythmic tap sounds as Master Monk Myungho walks toward the candidates. The monk instructs all passers to move to the waiting room while a masked figure appears behind Oknoti.
A soft whisper sounds as the masked figure, Jinswang, sneaks up and addresses Oknoti.
Oknoti reacts with a startled gasp, confused as to why the boy is talking to her.
Jizwang asks if she is an assassin, identifying himself as the Binding Assassin.
The narration reveals Jaeswang is a landmine character or trap from a rare side quest. Oknoti insists she isn't an assassin, but Jizwang flatly calls her a liar.
Jizwang remains convinced that Oknoti successfully saw through his high-level skills.
Oknoti thinks to herself that her player status is the real secret behind her insight.
Zhuang excitedly asks where she learned her techniques as Oknoti breaks into a sweat. Blushing, Jizwang reacts with jealousy when Oknoti claims she was trained by her butler and maid. Oknoti finds this sudden friendliness awkward and claims she actually learned from a mentor.
A vision of a lethal Zhuang appears as Oknoti recalls he usually picks fights on sight. A quick snap sounds as Oknoti wonders if her little girl friendliness is affecting him.
Mouse found a friend just like herself.
Oknoti yells at the masked boy to cut it out.
Sun O-chun laughs loudly at the scene while Jizwang stares at Oknoti.
A soft tap sounds as Jizwang touches Oknoti's shoulder to get her attention. Zhuang asks if he should beat up her teammates for her while glaring at Sun O-chun. Oknoti stares back with a silent, heavy expression. Jizwang innocently repeats his offer to beat up the people around her.
Oknoti reflects on Jizwang being a tier 1.5 side character and considers how to raise his favor.
Oknoti tells him not to do that, leaving Jizwang surprised. We are teammates here. Oknoti looks at her group and realizes she has grown genuinely attached to them.
Oknoti smiles broadly, noting that the major NPCs from the game are no longer in her group.
Zhuang says goodbye as Oknoti waves and runs back to her team.
A series of quick thumps sound as Oknody joins her teammates, thinking they are precious to her. Narrative windows explain that round 2 is about creativity while the third round begins. A sharp crack sounds as the noble-looking girl uses ice magic and the ponytail man strikes an orc.
The 2 elite candidates stand victoriously over a field of defeated monsters.
The noble-looking girl wonders if the Academy has always held such intense trials.
A grim narrative describes the endless war with demons and the growing graves of fallen soldiers. Seeking answers, the noble-looking girl unleashes a massive ice spell against a horde of orcs.
Oknody laughs as a bubble notes it would hurt someone's pride to be rated lower than a child.
The noble-looking girl reacts with a startled gasp.
A soft rustle sounds as she picks up a dark stone, realizing Oknody had a reason for her hobby.
A blue system window reveals the entrance exam results for the advanced class groups.
Panels show the accepted students from all groups gathering in a grand, ornate hallway.
A blonde woman in a red dress hides behind a fan while observing the new students. Sun Oh-chun asks Oknody if she is surprised by the number of people who passed.
Sun Oh-chun asks Oknody if she has any knowledge regarding the separation of groups A, B, and C.
Pointing to a map, Oknody explains that Group A is for frontier regions, B is for central, and C is for special cases, noting their team is likely in Group A.
Sun Oh-chun finds the split based on origin strange, but Oknody clarifies that students are simply kept separate based on which testing site they utilized. A bead of sweat rolls down Oknody's face as Isabelle notes her sudden spike in academy knowledge, which the girl attributes to lessons learned at home.
A rhythmic clicking sound echoes as a tall, blonde woman in an elegant red dress passes by, catching Oknody's attention.
Hiding behind her fan, the woman is identified as Arcadia, the second highest ranking member of the Western Noble Alliance.
The blonde woman watches the group with a sharp, calculating gaze.
Oknody privately reflects that despite her rank, the woman's style is an incoherent mix of trends that lacks a proper foundation. Oknody speaks up and gets Arcadia's attention, causing the noblewoman to pause in surprise.
A soft rustle sounds as Arcadia spins around, delighted by Oknody's praise and her suggestion that the outfit would pair perfectly with a fur coat.
Radiant sparkles surround Arcadia as she boasts about having a winter outfit ready, leaving the rest of Oknody's team at a loss for words.
A quick snap sounds as Arcadia decides to be generous, though Oknody's internal narration notes there is no practical benefit to raising favor with her.
Oknody's ears perk up with a sudden twitch when Arcadia suggests they bond over girl talk and fried squid.
Sun Oh-chun and Giselle watch in bewilderment as the 2 girls immediately start sharing a snack on the floor.
Munching happily, Oknody declares that Arcadia has officially become her favorite person.
A sharp rustle sounds as a man in a conical hat appears and calls Oknody's name, startling her while she is still eating. The man informs her that Instructor Minerva has requested her presence immediately.
Oknody clutches a piece of paper with a look of growing anxiety and confusion. The scene shifts to a grand, sunlit room filled with luxurious red furniture and a quiet atmosphere.
Minerva sips her tea and instructs Oknody to enter the room.
Creeping into the room with a nervous expression, Oknody asks why she has been summoned this time. A soft slurp sounds as Minerva drinks her tea and assures the girl that she isn't in trouble.
Oknody sits on a large sofa and asks about the clipboard placed on the table before her.
Minerva explains that Group A is for the frontier, B for central, and C for others, while Oknody notes her own place in the frontier group.
Oknody's face pales in horror as Minerva reveals that her name has never been registered in the International Identification Archive.
A soft slurp sounds as Minerva continues drinking, leaving Oknody to hope desperately that the news is a mistake. A loud shout sounds as Oknody reacts with total despair to the news that unregistered students are relegated to Group C and placed under constant instructor supervision. Visions of events Oknody wanted to clear plague her mind as she realizes she won't be able to clear her intended goals.
Oknody begs the instructor to overlook the discrepancy just once, but Minerva gives a firm and final refusal.
A dizzying spiral of despair surrounds Oknody as she learns she must remain under instructor watch 24 hours a day. A heavy thump sounds as Oknody collapses onto the sofa, but Minerva cryptically adds that her previous statement was only what she intended to say.
A quick snap sounds as Minerva signals someone, leaving Oknody wide-eyed with curiosity.
A rhythmic tap sounds as a man's boots land on the floor, prompting a joyous cry of Jonah from Oknody. Bowing respectfully, a man with a mustache and monocle greets Oknody and notes that it has been a long time. A quick snap sounds as a whistle is used to summon the butler, who is described as being 100% loyal.
Oknody lunges forward and hugs the man, shouting that she missed him.
The man is identified as Jonah Waihimhai, Oknody's perfectly trustworthy butler.
A sharp pinch sounds as Jonah places a firm hand on Oknody's head, telling her that such behavior is unacceptable. Oknody rubs her head with a teary expression, while Jonah tells her to maintain her composure.
Jonah turns to the instructor and asks if he may have a moment of privacy with Oknody.
Minerva agrees and walks away, leaving the butler and his charge alone. The two stand in the center of the large room, surrounded by bookshelves and elegant decor.
A sudden thump sounds as Jonah grabs Oknadi by the shoulders and tells her to listen carefully.
Jonah looks down at the girl with an intense, serious expression.
Oknadi looks back with wide, confused eyes and repeats the butler's name.
A hum of magic sounds as the team stands within a glowing teleportation circle in the middle of the forest. Oknadi stands with a confident posture as the narration describes her as a talent on an entirely different level from those who barely passed.
Jonah stares forward with a grim, determined look.
A soft shimmer appears in Oknodi's eyes as she looks up, regardless of her achievements.
Oknodi clings to Jonah's leg as the narration concludes that she will always be labeled as a scholar of the YHM High Foundation.
Jonah stares intensely, reflecting on the wary relationship between the world and the YHM Phi Foundation.
Jonah suddenly and firmly seizes the startled Oknodi by her shoulders.
Jonah reveals his past as a former Foundation scholar, prompting a surprised Oknodi to question if he is serious.
Jonah warns that she's at a life-altering crossroads and that the Foundation's support isn't selfless, but Oknodi's simply asks what they truly want. A grim vision shows an older Oknodi shackled to a massive weight, illustrating how the Foundation will eventually demand her total devotion.
Oknodi acknowledges the warning as Jonah prepares to explain a crucial alternative path.
Jonah explains that she could find true freedom by refusing the Foundation's backing, leaving Oknodi utterly confused as to why she would ever do so.
Jonah urges her to consider the offer seriously, noting that the Academy is showing her special favor as the top entrance scorer. A contract reveals that the Academy is willing to cover all her debts and protect her from the Foundation's influence.
Jonah offers her a pen and explains that signing will allow the Academy to create an entirely new identity for her.
Oknodi stares blankly at the document with the pen held in her hand, processing the weight of the decision.
Oknodi asks about Jonah's fate, and his eyes close as he reveals that his loyalty to the Foundation would mean saying goodbye forever. Tears well up as Oknodi loudly protests that she will never abandon him, wondering why her heart feels so heavy. Jonah gently pets Oknodi's head to comfort the Faving girl.
Narrative captions reveal Jonah feels a shameful satisfaction in being chosen by her, even though she is heading toward an irreversible fate.
Jonah warns that having others decide her fate is despair, but Oknodi insists she can just keep climbing higher on her own.
Jonah asks if she really believes she will be different, and Oknodi simply smiles and says everything will be fine.
A radiant glow surrounds Oknodi as she confidently declares that she is the player after all.
Oknodi shrugs and explains that as her father's daughter, the Foundation is effectively hers to help in the end, leaving Jonah speechless.
Oknodi beams and adds that helping out her father is only natural, her eyes sparkling with cheer.
Jonah wonders how to handle a bird that refuses to leave an open cage, as a vision shows Oknodi standing inside a massive, shimmering bird cage.
Jonah clenches his gloved hand with newfound determination.
A dark aura emanates from Jonah as he straightens his suit with a grim, resolute expression.
Jonah announces that from this day forward, he will act as her official sponsor and representative within the Foundation.
Oknodi happily agrees and holds up her whistle, noting that Jonah has always been on her side. The sunlight reflects brightly off the metallic surface of the whistle.
Oknodi looks up at her butler with a soft, affectionate expression.
Oknodi takes Jonah's hand and asks if all the boring paperwork is finally finished. Oknodi walks alongside Jonah, eager to share her stories from the entrance exam.
Narration reveals that Jonah risks being disposed of by the organization if he repeats past mistakes involving the girl.
Jonah reflects on the danger but finds it moving that Oknodi trusts him so completely despite the risks.
Oknodi pauses and calls out to Jonah with a hesitant expression. Fidgeting with her fingers, Oknodi shyly asks when she will be able to see him again. Jonah explains that the rules only allow sponsors or their official proxies to visit once a month on a set day.
Oknodi grumbles to herself about the realism of her current situation, leaving a confused Jonah to stare at her.
Jonah tells her to avoid saying strange things so she won't be bullied, but Oknodi proudly boasts about already having plenty of friends.
Jonah smiles, noting that anyone Oknodi opens her heart to must be special, as the girl chatters happily beside him.
Oknodi begins to walk away, her long hair swaying behind her.
Jonah announces that he will be going now, causing Oknodi to stop and look back with a startled expression. Jonah bows deeply and tells her to take care of herself until they meet again.
Oknodi waves her hand energetically and wishes Jonah well. Oknodi walks alone through the grand, sunlit hallway of the Academy.
An aerial view shows the sprawling Gift Academy grounds nestled among the lush green mountains and rocky cliffs.
Narrative windows explain the Academy's barrier is for student safety, though Oknodi privately notes it won't stop determined intruders.
A blonde boy in a blue uniform stands with crossed arms while an ape-like student picks his ear in the crowded hall.
A staff member shouts for all the new students to submit their bags for a check for forbidden items.
The search for outside magical gear begins, and a staff member quickly identifies a banned item in a student's bag.
The ape-like student mocks the brown-haired boy for trying to cheat with overpowered equipment.
The staff member tells the orange-haired student he can keep his giant stick, but needs a permit to use it for training.
Oknoti reacts with utter confusion. The braided staff member lists the compass, glowstone, rescue mirror, and steel knife from her bag, asking if she planned a dungeon expedition, but Oknoti confidently identifies herself as an adventurer.
The staff member declares that everything will be confiscated, prompting Oknoti to protest that it is not fair.
The staff member explains there is nothing to be done and suggests she buy what she needs inside the academy. The staff member adds that she could also earn permission with enough points, leaving Oknoti puzzled by the mention of points. The staff member clarifies that the points earned during the entrance exam serve as the student's starting balance. Oknoti expresses excitement as the staff member explains she can check her points on the magic watch provided to every freshman. A series of beep sounds as a digital window displays bonuses for early arrival and ranking first in the advanced entrance exam class. A beep sounds as the status window reveals Oknoti has a staggering total of over 200,000 points. Oknoti boldly declares her intent to spend points on usage permissions, catching the staff member off guard with her enthusiasm. A chime sounds as Oknoti looks shocked at her status window.
Multiple system messages announce that freshmen are strictly prohibited from applying for usage permits.
Chibi Oknoti trembles as she asked for clarification, while the staff member sighs at the situation. A loud boom sounds as Oknoti screams in despair upon hearing that all her gear will be placed in storage. A loud boom sounds as Oknoti wails at the news that all her belongings will be confiscated. Oknoti sobs about the unfairness while the staff member offers an apology, observed by a brown-haired man in the background. Approaching the staff member, the brown-haired man requests a private moment with him.
The two men whisper together.
A quick turn sounds as the staff member reacts with surprise while a confused Oknoti watches.
The staff member surrenders the pouch.
A smooth slide sounds as the brown-haired man extends the small pouch toward Oknoti. Oknoti takes the bag and wonders how he managed to get it back for her.
The man smiles warmly and advises Oknoti that the proper response is simply to say thank you. Oknoti beams with pure happiness.
The man gently pats Oknoti's head. The bearded elder looks back startled. The bearded elder asks if the inspections concluded safely, and the staff member confirms they did, though he notes something unusual occurred.
The elder asks if there was another bomb-carrying terrorist like the previous year, but the staff member clarifies that the issue is quite different.
The staff member reports that Oknoti is undergoing poison resistance training and explains that confiscating her poison candy could dangerously disrupt her body's balance. Oknoti walks away into the light. A sharp breath sounds as the staff member questions the danger of the girl's poison intake while the elder stares with glowing eyes. A heavy rumble sounds as an oppressive dark energy erupts from the elder, causing the staff member to gasp in fear. The staff member gasps for air. The bearded elder coughs and bows his head in prayer, admitting that his training is lacking if his emotions are swayed so easily. The elder expresses shame for showing such a side of himself, but the staff member dismisses it, noting that he was also shaken. The staff member reveals that the girl has a habit of eating stones, leaving the elder completely stunned. Clutching his head, the elder laments how tragic it is that her harsh training likely caused a mental disorder. A potion bottle sits among shards, illustrating a life forced to rely on poison. Images of a younger Oknoti appear as the elder asks the staff member to hide the matter from the higher-ups despite academy regulations. The elder argues that empathy must exist alongside laws and declares that he will personally watch over the girl. The staff member prays that nothing bad will happen to the student. The bearded elder closes his eyes and prays for the girl to be at peace. Narrative text reveals that the first report from Oknoti has arrived as a man writes at a desk. The report lists her dorm room as 111 and mentions her sponsored uniform, but warns against entering room 111-1. A rustle sounds as Jonah examines the letter, noting it matches her handwriting and that she requested no support items from the Foundation. Jonah wonders which professor will be the next to succumb to the charm of a scholar from the Foundation. Narration explains that professors are incapable of ignoring students with such extraordinary talent. Jonah sighs, reflecting on how the Foundation will eventually use professors by holding their students hostage to their talent. A student stands alone and somber. Jonah shakes his head in disappointment. Jonah carefully inspects the academy report through his monocle, focusing on the latest details.
Jonah is troubled to see that Oknoti has requested no support items from the Foundation.
Oknoti walks through the Grand Academy hallway, unaware of Jonah's concerns about her independence. Resting his chin on his hand, Jonah resolves to find a way to assist the girl. Jonah is baffled by a cryptic sticky note warning him not to enter room 111-1.
A close-up highlights the specific warning regarding the mysterious room left on Jonah's document.
Standing in her dorm, Oknoti realizes she has a full week to wait before the ceremony. Oknoti assumes the room warning was sent by mistake, but continues settling into her new dormitory. Oknoti reveals that her room contains a secret unknown to any of the academy's residents or staff. Approaching a seemingly ordinary section of the wall, Oknoti prepares to reveal the answering door. A series of sharp, rhythmic knocks sounds against the wall as Oknoti tests the secret mechanism.
Oaknody expresses annoyance that the hidden door actually answers back when she tries to interact with it.
Red-haired Hestia sits on her bed, identified as the game's first major boss character. Narration explains how Hestia's isolation leads her to talk to a non-existent neighbor through the wall.
A terrifying vision depicts Hestia's eventual descent into madness as a frenzied, axe-wielding berserker.
Oaknody determinedly declares that as a veteran player, she will never waste such a valuable resource.
Oaknody requests future exam questions from the secret door, which readily agrees to provide them. Hestia looks completely bewildered as she finds herself holding a stack of books provided by the wall.
Arcadia, the Princess of Florence, beams with delight and calls out an affectionate nickname for Oaknody.
Arcadia finds Oaknody irresistible and playfully pokes the girl's cheek while they share a meal.
Oaknody observes that the princess seems to have taken an incredibly strong liking to her.
A system window details Oaknody's increased understanding of Arcadia's personality and her kingdom's strict etiquette.
Arcadia reacts with ladylike surprise while holding her fan during their conversation at the table.
While Arcadia playfully lectures her on proper noble behavior, Oaknody finds the constant fussing quite bothersome.
A system notification announces the discovery of a rare recipe, exciting Oaknody's interest in her collection.
A sudden sharp top sounds as a student sets down a teacup to get Arcadia's attention.
A brown-haired student approaches the table requesting a private moment to discuss an important matter. Arcadia politely questions the visitor's purpose while Oaknody continues to eat beside her. The visitor expresses her sincere gratitude for the kindness Arcadia has shown to the young Oaknody. The student urges Arcadia to focus more on the strategic activities of the Western Noble Alliance. Arcadia hides behind her fan while inquiring about the status of the B Group's Central Nobility students. The group discusses the advanced class's responsibility to lead against the Empire despite their inferior weaponry. Oaknody reflects on the lethal, non-bladed weapons used by the Empire that make the frontier students uneasy.
Narrative visuals depict the advanced mana refinement and cultivation techniques that give Empire nobles their strength.
Oaknody acknowledges that the high-quality mana possessed by their rivals makes them difficult to defeat. Drinking her tea, Oaknody recalls the devastating power Hestia displays once she awakens as a boss. Arcadia sighs and promises to be more cautious regarding the ongoing tensions within the Academy. Arcadia pinches Oaknody's cheek and reassures her that everything will be fine. Oaknody remains skeptical, wondering if Arcadia is truly prepared for the looming challenges. A glowing blue crystal sounds with a quick flip as Oaknody tosses it into the air. Oaknody walks happily through the halls, hummed a tune while celebrating her luck for the day. Oaknody's thoughts of lunch are interrupted by a harsh insult directed at her from across the hall. Oaknody stops and stares as a large crowd gathers for a confrontation in the hallway. A group of formal noble students confront those who have finished exercising, criticizing their lack of uniforms. The athletic students argue that wearing uniforms is only a recommendation rather than a mandatory rule. The leaders of both factions engage in a heated face-to-face argument, demanding apologies from one another.
A system window identifies the verbal clash as the first group competition event of the term.
A new system message prompts Oaknody to choose and support a faction to befriend.
Oaknody pauses to carefully evaluate which group of students would make for the best allies.
Prioritizing strategic power, Oaknody decides to side with the higher-tier Empire students. Scheming to befriend the nobles, Oaknody is surprised when someone calls her name. Isabel asks if Oaknody arrived to help, leaving the younger girl completely shocked. Oaknody is bewildered by Isabel's presence among the athletic group. Oaknody stands frozen and sweating. Isabel stares with a flat expression. Isabel asks if Oaknody is just looking for snacks, making her flinch in panic. Oaknody frantically denies any interest in the noble's wine or elixirs while a dark-haired student watches.
Isabel smiles and says Oaknody can take the noble side, but Oaknody is hesitant.
Isabel cheerfully threatens to never cook for Oaknody again if she joins the nobles.
Isabel promises to tell Arcadia about the betrayal, causing Oaknody to wail. Oaknody looks at them with annoyance. Oaknody stares with wide blue eyes. Oaknody recalls her friends, from the kind man and ape to the woman who carried her and Princess Arcadia's affection. A quick, firm step sounds. Oaknody fiercely demands that the nobles stop bullying her friends, surprising the athletic group. Defensive tracksuits follows as Oaknody yells they are clean and everyone has showered. The Empire nobles recoil in shock at the girl's bluntness. The senior mocks Oaknody's manners while her companion calls her uneducated and barbaric, leading the athletic group to scream that they should not insult a child and that the noble's perfume stinks. As the yelling escalates, Oaknody worries about the increasing conflict while system messages announce the group competition event is achieved and Group A's affection has increased as Group B's decreased. The blonde noble calls the athletes lowlifes and leads her group a wish. Now friendship is ruined. The athletic students swarm Oaknody with overwhelming enthusiasm. Isabel and her friends thank Oaknody and offer to treat her to food. Oaknody is stunned by the affection. The group celebrates by playfully patting Oaknody on the head. The happy group walks away. The staff member asks the elder to intervene, but the bearded man notes the conflict is already resolved. The elder bows and prays that virtue will continue to bring good fortune. Kindness increases her positive relationships. Isabel walks in Cha happily.
The elder smiles, relieved that Oknody has avoided the jealousy he once feared.
Walking away, the elder prays for peace to last until the entrance ceremony.
Sunset falls over the academy. Oknody walks to her room, hoping for a peaceful week until the ceremony. A sharp, quiet sound occurs.
Hestia looks pale and upset.
Watching Hestia enter room 112, Oknody wonders why she is so distressed. A quick click sounds.
Oknody panics as a notification reveals that a rare nightmare event has been triggered.
A corrupted vision of Hestia appears.
Narration explains that chapter bosses have set schedules for their awakening events during the midterms. Hestia is an exception Jurmuls.
Hestia's early awakening event begins.
A flashback shows the advanced class students mocking Hestia and driving her toward madness.
Hestia whispers to the wall that the other students insulted her and called her ugly.
Oknody realizes Hestia is likely suffering from a subtle bullying situation and having a breakdown behind the wall. Tragedy will soon cause casualties.
Hestia snaps upon realizing her only refuge is actually the answering door, while Oknody trembles with fear.
A loud thud sounds as Oknody rushes to intervene and stop the tragedy.
Oknody resolves to use her veteran knowledge to prevent the chapter boss from going dark.
Oknody clears her throat to get someone's attention. Cupping her hand, Oknody calls out softly toward the wall.
Oknody proudly wonders if her plan makes her a true genius. Narration notes that understanding the wall's secrets will allow Oknody to comfort Hestia directly.
Placing her hand against the surface, Oknody waits for a response as a soft, rhythmic thrumming occurs. Oknody is completely shocked when the hidden door bluntly refuses her request.
Determined not to take no for an answer, Oknody prepares to press the issue further.
The hidden voice suggests that Hestia should speak more often, leaving Oknody sweating in confusion.
A panicked cry escapes Oknody as she realizes the secret door has an affection system.
Oknody recalls how both she and Hestia have used the wall as a confidant, fueling the door's preferences.
Spiraling into a panic, Oknody despairs over her next course of action. The scene shifts to the dense, vibrant greenery of the Academy's forest. A rhythmic crunching sounds as Oknody and Isabel hike through the lush woods together.
Isabel stops suddenly, having spotted something of interest among the plants.
A light rustle sounds as Isabel carefully gathers a cluster of rare, glowing rainbow mushrooms. Isabel enthusiastically offers to cook a mushroom risotto, but Oknody remains deep in thought.
Isabel calls out to check on the young girl, noticing her unusual lack of focus.
Isabel is troubled to see that Oknody isn't even reacting to the mention of food. Isabel kindly asks if something is bothering her young companion. Oknody seeks Isabel's advice on how to successfully bridge the gap and get close to someone.
A sharp, quick thud sounds as Isabel clutches her chest, deeply moved by being called sister.
Isabel laughs off her emotional outburst and tries to steer the conversation back to the topic.
Isabel playfully teases Oknody, asking if she has developed a secret crush on someone.
Oknody frantically waves her hands, insisting that the person's identity must remain a secret.
Isabel wonders if her intensive weekend of gathering ingredients was too much for the girl.
Oknody asks Isabel to promise not to tell anyone else about her concerns.
Oknody explains that her target is difficult to approach because they are already very close to a best friend.
Isabel suggests that Oknody should bond with them by talking about that very same best friend.
Oknody is left completely bewildered by Isabel's social strategy.
Isabel suggests outdoor activities, but Oknody reflects that her target cannot leave their location.
Isabel explains the importance of drawing interest through subjects the other person cares about.
Oknody is enlightened by the advice and brightly thanks her big sister for the help.
A rhythmic clinking sound occurs as hot soup is served in the Academy dining hall.
A male student with a goatee speaks about recent events while enjoying his meal.
The male student and a brown-haired girl sit together, discussing a mutual acquaintance at the table.
A tight close-up focuses on the male student's unique, glowing purple eye.
The male student describes helping a stubborn girl from the A-group advanced class in the forest.
A vision depicts a girl with dark hair and a bow, identified as the person the merchant helped. The male student looks down with a faint smile, reflecting on the girl's persistence.
The woman student reflects on her own poor judgment regarding Oknody's kind and pitiful nature.
The brown-haired woman is told not to be so hard on herself by her companion.
Giselle, the dark merchant, explains that gathering information is simply an occupational habit.
A bright ping sounds as a light bulb appears above Giselle's head, signaling a sudden inspiration.
Giselle suggests talking to the girl about her laundry habits, but his friend finds the level of detail creepy.
The woman student resolves to ask around about the girl named Dorothy.
A quiet moment focuses on the fabric of a student's plaid skirt as the conversation continues.
A rhythmic, snapping sound occurs as Arcadia fans herself while looking quite composed. Arcadia and her companion discuss the girl who is known for carrying a bow around the academy.
A dark vision depicts Dorothy's isolation as she declares her desire to be left alone.
Arcadia notes that Dorothy's withdrawal stems from being betrayed by a close hometown friend. Isabel stands at a doorway and asks if she can provide any assistance. A blonde girl smiles while remarking that she initially found her companion to be strict and difficult.
Isabel asks for Dorothy's room number, and Arcadia informs her that she can be found in room 120.
As a sliding, rhythmic sound echoes, Isabel offers her thanks, and Arcadia replies that it was her pleasure.
The golden light of sunset bathes the academy. Isabel spots a student and asks what he is doing outside the girls' dormitory. The young man looks startled and wonders about the identity of the person standing before him. The boy stands in silence, looking troubled as the sun begins to set.
Isabel repeats her question to the startled boy, who responds with a brief, nervous stammer.
Looking down with a somber expression, the boy identifies Isabel as Oknoti's teammate. A somber vision of Dorothy appears behind the boy as he reflects on their shared history. Isabel asks why he acted that way if he was going to feel so guilty, and the boy admits he wasn't thinking clearly at the time. Clenching his fist tightly, the boy explains that he felt he had to pass even if it meant everyone else would fail. Isabel listens in silence as the boy's regrets weigh heavily in the evening air. The boy claims he was intending to visit Dorothy anyway, causing Isabel to react with a sudden look of surprise. Isabel offers to tell Dorothy that a creepy guy has been loitering, but the boy shamelessly begs her to help him instead.
Isabel pauses as she turns away, wondering about the boy's true intentions.
Bathed in the golden light of the sunset, the boy offers a small, grateful smile and says thank you. Isabel dismisses the boy's gratitude and turns back toward the dormitory entrance. Narration explains that Isabel feels this favor is nothing compared to what Oknoti has done for them. Arriving at the door marked 120, Isabel reaches out and gives a firm, quick knock.
A voice from inside asks who is there, and Isabel identifies herself clearly.
Isabel explains she is Oknoti's teammate who helped in the forest, and a wary Dorothy slowly opens the door. Dorothy allows Isabel inside, and the two girls sit down to talk in the quiet room.
A vision of Giselle appears as Isabel conveys his message that Dorothy hasn't used the laundry circle and that cleanliness is important.
Isabel sits in awkward silence as she eyes a large pile of unwashed clothes in the corner.
Dorothy explains that tagging the Black Hat instructor earned her nearly 1,800 points during the exam. A memory shows the instructor as Dorothy realizes his points had been accumulating since the very beginning of the test. Dorothy admits she was penalized for being late but refused to give up, making Isabel wonder if Oknoti knew everything from the start. A radiant vision of Oknoti shines in Isabel's mind. Deeply moved, Isabel clutches her chest as she realizes how much Oknoti truly worried about them. Isabel clarifies that she actually came to ask Dorothy for a specific favor.
Dorothy's eyes narrow as she suspiciously asks if the favor is related to the idiot waiting outside.
Looking down at her bed, Dorothy firmly states that she has no intention of forgiving him.
Isabel agrees that someone who has betrayed once is likely to do it again, making Dorothy's distrust natural.
When Dorothy asks what the real question was, Isabel explains that Oknoti mentioned wanting to be friends with her. Stunned and wide-eyed, Dorothy asks in disbelief if Oknoti really wants to be her friend. A warm, genuine smile spreads across a face. Isabel laughs that a mutual acquaintance can be wrong, while Dorothy asks if she's being mixed up with someone else since they haven't met since the exam. Isabel apologizes for wasting time and begins to leave, but Dorothy quickly asks her to wait. Dorothy stands up and asks to hear the rest of the story, surprising Isabel. The two girls sit back down and continue their conversation in the fading light. Dorothy ponders the news that Oknoti has someone she specifically wants to get closer to.
Dorothy asks if the person is the next-door neighbor, leaving Isabel completely confused by the suggestion.
Dorothy explains she has overheard other residents whispering about the people in rooms 112 and 111. Dorothy puffs out her chest proudly while Isabel looks on with a bewildered expression. A flashback reveals Dorothy's habit of secretly watching others from behind large plants to gather information. Isabel's sweat drops as she realizes she might be just as creepy as the people she previously criticized. Thinking deeply, Isabel reflects on the information regarding the neighbor next door. Isabel stands before a door marked 110 and gives a soft rhythmic knock. A gray-furred beastfolk girl looks out from behind a door with wide, glowing yellow eyes.
Isabel is startled to find a beastfolk student living in the dormitory and introduces herself.
Isabel watches awkwardly as the beastfolk girl begins grooming her arm in silence. Isabel asks if she knows anything about the neighbor, finding it difficult to ask the person directly. Looking concerned, Isabel listens as the beastfolk girl mentions something that has been bothering her. The beastfolk girl gives a thumbs up while remarking that the neighbor's conversations never seem to connect. Isabel looks back in confusion, questioning what it means for their conversations to not connect. The beastfolk girl explains they both talk as if a third person is present, dismissing them as lonely outcasts while Isabel spirals into stress. A vision of Oknoti's cheerful teammates appears as the context of their friendships is weighed. Isabel collapses in despair at the thought that Oknoti's desired friend might just be an imaginary one. Dramatically crying out Oknoti's name, Isabel's silhouette is cast against a vibrant sunset-colored sky. A sharp blue light flashes as Isabel's eyes widen in sudden, startled realization. Isabel leans in to ask how the beastfolk girl could possibly know they were talking to themselves. Posing against a bubbly background, the beastfolk girl explains that scouting her surroundings is simple survival preparation.
The Beastfolk girl retreats into her room, leaving Isabel feeling unsettled by her creepy observation habits. Shifting to a memory, Oknodi stands in her hoodie, looking back with a confused expression.
A close-up reveals Oknodi's narrowed eyes as she finds her target more troublesome than expected.
Frustrated and fuming, Oknodi demands to know what specific item will help raise the target's affection. A hand clenches into a tight fist as the hidden voice claims total ignorance about affection-raising items.
Oknodi slams her hand against the wall in a rage, asking if there is anything at all the target wants.
Oknodi turns pale and freezes as the voice through the wall suddenly asks her to come visit.
Stunned by the unexpected invitation, Oknodi can only respond with a faint, disbelieving whisper.
Oknodi realizes with a cold sweat that being invited to visit means entering the wall itself.
A glowing spectral figure of a woman appears, illustrating the trap of needing a replacement to escape the wall.
Oknodi trembles with anger, realizing her veteran knowledge barely saved her from falling for a dangerous trick.
A muscular woman with long red hair leans against the wall, shyly asking if she can be friends. Returning to the present, Oknodi walks through the academy halls as a student calls out her name. Isabel stops Oknodi to kindly offer her support, telling her she can reach out anytime if anything happens.
Oknodi looks bewildered by the sudden outburst of concern from her teammate.
Oknodi reflects on how bizarre it is to be seeking social advice on how to befriend a literal wall.
Oknodi sticks her tongue out in annoyance while Isabel watches her with a curious,
A large crowd of students in blue tracksuits gathers in a hall, murmuring about a developing situation. Isabel spots the commotion and notes a fight has broken out, while Oknodi's eyes sparkle with excitement.
Oknodi dashes toward the noise to watch the spectacle, leaving a weary Isabel to follow behind.
Hopping up and down behind the tall crowd, Oknodi complains that she is too short to see the action. A sudden quick lift occurs as Oknodi is hoisted into the air by her companion.
Isabel settles Oknodi onto her shoulders so she can see, playfully warning her to stay still.
Oknodi's eyes widen in awe as she notices the incredibly large muscles of one of the fighters.
Gazing down at the scene, Oknodi observes the muscular red-haired girl standing alone amidst the crowd. Two girls mock the muscular student for being a manaless gorilla, causing Oknodi to panic for her safety.
A system notification appears, announcing that a chapter boss event involving Berserker Hestia has been triggered.
Hestia stands silently as the bullies berate her, while the system warns she might snap and tear someone apart. The game presents a choice to help Hestia or leave her, and Oknodi rushes forward to intervene. Oknodi leaps in front of Hestia with arms outstretched, complaining about her wasted efforts with the wall. A tight close-up focuses on Hestia's glowing purple eyes as they widen in utter shock at Oknodi's bravery.
Oknodi stands her ground firmly, shielding the muscular girl from the surrounding bullies. Oknodi loudly scolds the bullies, telling them that their insults regarding appearance reveal their own low character.
The lead bully laughs mockingly, questioning the skill level of the academy if a kid is their top scorer. A dark red aura erupts from Hestia as she menacingly tells the bullies to get lost if they want to fight. The bully girl scoffs, accusing Hestia of only acting tough because she wants to save face in front of a child. Lotto sneers at Hestia, mocking her as a barbarian who only knows how to use her fists.
Oknodi steps in, calmly commanding everyone to stop their bickering as Hestia looks on in shock.
Oknodi points a finger, scolding the bullies for their lack of upbringing while the crowd watches in awe. Trembling with intense rage, Lotto asks if Oknodi is truly prepared to face the consequences of her words. A student rallies for Lotto to fight back as the martial artist turns with a fierce and determined gaze.
Wearing her red and black training gear, Lotto prepares for combat with a cool and focused expression.
Lotto displays her martial prowess with a high, powerful kick that sends a wave of force through the air.
Hestia is stunned by the move, while Oknodi remains entirely unimpressed by the demonstration of skill. Lotto boasts of her professional combat training and warns Oknodi that their spar will be incredibly painful.
Hestia prepares to defend Oknodi, but the young girl tells her everything will be fine.
Oknodi gives a confident thumbs up, reminding the group that she was the top scorer of the advanced class.
Oknodi challenges the stunned Lotto to settle their differences in the Academy's official training arena.
Oknodi accepts the upcoming battle with an intense, blue-eyed stare, while Lotto continues to fume in silence.
Both girls trade dark smiles as they vow not to regret the high-stakes duel they have initiated.
Hestia watches Oknodi with a look of deep concern as an ominous energy begins to fill the room.
News of the match between the top scorer and Lotto spreads quickly, drawing students from all over campus. A massive crowd gathers at Arena Number 3, eager to witness the confrontation between the two students. A student marvels at the incredible sight of the massive audience assembled for the match. Insults fly from the crowd against the Empire nobles as the tension in the arena reaches its peak.
Isabel stands in the crowd and clears her throat, preparing to watch her teammate in action.
Oknodi is confused by the unexpected cheering as the crowd champions her as a bringer of justice. Isabel is greeted by Oknodi's teammates who have arrived to witness the high-profile duel. The Beastfolk teammate explains that Oknodi wanted to handle the nobles alone to avoid showing them her power. Isabel is left speechless by the calm and casual confidence Oknoti's teammates have in her victory. The teammates laugh at Isabel's worry, suggesting that Oknoti's power is far greater than anyone realizes. The teammates confidently discuss Oknoti's strength, fully expecting her to dominate the match with ease. Oknoti stands in the arena, surrounded by a dark and swirling aura that hints at her hidden nature. A vision of a rare platinum ticket appears, a prize that grants automatic advancement to its holder. Giselle explains that Oknoti earned her rare double-digit ticket by defeating an advanced examiner in a duel.
Giselle details the grim rule of the ticket system, where rankings only change upon the owner's death.
Isabel is overwhelmed by the realization that Oknoti is one of the most talented students in Academy history.
The teammates reveal Oknoti's past as an assassination weapon, explaining her lethal combat experience.
The Beastfolk teammate dismisses Lotto as a minor match for Oknoti, whom he calls their mouse.
Oknoti and Lotto face each other in the center of the arena as the duel officially begins.
Isabel questions Giselle about Oknoti's family secrets, but he warns her that the Academy is watching.
Isabel reflects on the terrifying and deep darkness that seems to follow Oknoti's family lineage.
Despite her fear, Isabel resolves not to let anyone underestimate them and prepares to support her friend. Giselle suggests they watch the duel closely as a student reacts with surprise to the escalating situation. A voice from the crowd calls out for someone to encourage Oknoti during the match. Oknoti's teammates look on with quiet pride, knowing exactly what their friend is capable of doing. The group stands together, focused on the arena as the duel enters its most critical stage. A judge explains that the safety guard will stop the match immediately upon activation to prevent injury. Oknoti casually stretches and prepares for the fight with a cheerful and relaxed expression. Lotto watches Oknoti's lack of seriousness with a look of mounting confusion and irritation. Lotto threatens to make Oknoti suffer, promising that the match will result in plenty of pain. Oknoti smiles eerily, confessing that she had originally intended to show her opponent some mercy. With a widening and chilling grin, Oknoti declares that Lotto's attitude has made mercy entirely unnecessary. Oknoti approaches Lotto with an intimidating aura, questioning if she is simply stalling for time. Oknoti reaches for her blade, recalling a scheduled power outage that will occur in the training building. Oknoti draws her sword as she reveals that the safety guard will fail, leaving Lotto paralyzed with terror. Lotto smirks confidently, mocking the A group for falling for such a simple trick. Shrugging dismissively, Chibi Oknoti notes that predicting an accident like that is naturally hard to believe. The cloaked judge raises his sword high and commands the match to start. A wave of excitement sweeps through the crowd as students cheer loudly for a victory. Lotto lunges forward with a fierce battle cry, her face set in determination. Lotto's eyes glow with power as she unleashes a heavy, concentrated punch. Lotto delivers a powerful high kick, but Oknoti effortlessly parries the blow with her training sword. A tense close-up captures Lotto gritting her teeth in frustration while Oknoti remains calm and focused. Lotto is sent skidding backward across the floor, her expression shifting to one of sheer disbelief. Trembling with shock, Lotto can only stare wide-eyed as she realizes her attack was completely neutralized. Oknoti smiles casually, resting her sword in one hand as she observes her opponent's struggle. Watching from the sidelines, Hestia nervously whispers Oknoti's name with a look of deep concern. Oknoti explains the various methods of mana cultivation and refinement that exist throughout the world. Turning her back to her opponent, Oknoti rests her sword on her shoulder and asks Lotto for her thoughts. Oknoti boasts that her extensive experience at the Academy has made her a master of both cultivation and refinement. Oknoti decides to finally get serious, noting that there is no longer a reason to hold back now that the butler is gone. Lotto yells back in a rage, stubbornly insisting that she still has plenty of strength left to fight. Gritting her teeth, Lotto reacts with a sharp gasp of pain and frustration as Oknoti questions her resolve. Lotto leaps high into the air, descending with another powerful and desperate shouting attack. Oknoti stands her ground, preparing to receive the incoming strike with a look of quiet intensity. The two students trade a rapid-fire series of blows in a blur of clashing weapons and high-speed movement. Lotto winds up for a massive punch with a fierce battle cry, pouring all her strength into the hit. Lotto's eyes widen in terror as her ultimate move is easily deflected, leaving her completely exposed. The scene shifts to the arena tower as the lights suddenly fail and an eerie silence settles over the hall. Lotto begins to sweat profusely, her breathing becoming heavy as the oppressive darkness of the blackout takes hold. The panicked judge calls for both students to stand by and wait as he reacts to the unexpected power failure. Lotto realizes with a chill of horror that Oknoti's earlier prediction about the blackout was entirely correct.
Looming in the shadows, Oknoti calls out to Lotto as a dark and menacing aura begins to surround her.
Oknoti's eyes glow with a sinister pink light as she mockingly points out that the safety guard is now deactivated. Lotto falters and steps back in the dark as Oknoti slowly approaches her with terrifying intent. Oknoti coldly threatens to sever Lotto's leg to ensure she never pulls another stunt, prompting a desperate plea for mercy. Oknoti reassures the terrified girl with a chilling smile, claiming the Academy's healers will have no trouble reattaching her limb. Several spectral sword hilts manifest behind Oknoti as she prepares to deliver a final lethal blow.
Oknoti's face is partially obscured by shadow as she looks down at her prey with a wide, malevolent grin. Lotto trembles uncontrollably, her teeth chattering in the darkness as she faces the overwhelming pressure of Oknoti's presence.
A sudden, powerful flash of energy erupts through the room as Oknoti unleashes her strike.
Oknoti is visibly startled, her eyes wide as she realizes her finishing move has been unexpectedly blocked.
Oknoti's hand vibrates from the intense impact as she questions how her opponent managed to stop her.
Oknoti's gaze turns sharp and lethal, her eyes glowing with a renewed and dangerous intensity.
Oknoti swings her blade in a powerful arc, the motion creating a trail of bright energy in the dim arena.
Breaking a sweat, Oknoti reflects on the surprising turn of events, worrying that she might actually lose the duel.
In the brightly lit hallway, two confused students shield their eyes and ask what happened to the match.
Hestia stands firmly between the two fighters, her presence putting an end to the lethal exchange as Lotto lies defeated.
Oknoti reacts with a bewildered blink, looking up in surprise at the muscular girl who intervened.
Oknoti calls out to Hestia in confusion, while the red-haired girl remains silent with a stern expression.
Hestia looks down at Oknoti with a look of quiet resolve, her face showing no sign of malice.
Oknoti's eyes reflect her mounting confusion as she tries to understand Hestia's unexpected actions.
Hestia explains that she cannot stand by and watch the girl who helped her make such a devastating and life-changing mistake. Oknoti lowers her sword in size, closing her eyes as the tension of the duel finally begins to fade.
Oknoti admits with a playful, small smile that she would have just pretended not to see the situation if Hestia hadn't arrived. The match is officially halted.
The judge explains that the match is stopped because the power outage caused the safety guard to malfunction.
Giselle and Hestia react with a collective gasp of surprise.
Oknoti runs to her teammates and asks if they saw her impressive performance.
A stunned Oknoti stares wide-eyed.
Giselle and the Beastfolk teammates scold Oknoti for nearly becoming a criminal by using lethal force before the ceremony.
Blushing, Oknoti insists it was an accident and not her fault.
Oknoti looks to Hestia for validation, asking if she agrees. Hestia firmly declares that the incident was entirely Oknoti's fault. Hestia explains that something terrible would have happened without her intervention, prompting a quiet apology from Oknoti. Hestia tells her to skip the apology and properly thank the person she helped.
A sudden, sharp ping sounds as Hestia pats Oknoti's head.
A system window confirms event success with 50,000 points and a shift in group affection as Oknoti sighs deeply. Oknoti laments that her post-graduation success is ruined now that the nobles are after her. Determined, Oknoti resolves to just graduate with even better grades and solid skills to compensate. Oknoti startles as she notices Isabel watching her. The group stands together in the hall.
Isabel walks away with a cold, silent resolve.
Oknoti nervously scratches her head.
A crowd of students swarms Oknoti, excitedly asking about her sword technique and praising her strength.
Oknoti screams in distress as the group asks if she wants to train together later. Hestia steps in and orders everyone to back off. Hestia warns that they shouldn't swarm someone who just finished a match, receiving a quick apology from the students.
Hestia tells Oknoti to rest for today, allowing the blonde girl to breathe a sigh of relief.
Oknoti walks down a quiet dormitory hall there. Isabel stands by a door and quietly acknowledges her. Oknoti bows deeply and thanks Isabel for everything that happened today.
Surprised, Isabel asks if she followed her just to say that. Oknoti blushingly explains that her own room is actually just over there.
Isabel murmurs to herself that Oknoti is in room 111.
Oknoti asks what she said, but Isabel stays silent.
Isabel quickly ducks into room 112 as Oknoti watches in confusion. Oknoti realizes that Isabel is mistaking doorside conversations for actual interactions with her. Oknoti reflects that while she planned for this, it feels strange not knowing what was actually discussed. Sunset glows over the Grand Academy spires. Lotto trains intensely, her movements making a sharp, quick thud. A close-up shows Lotto panting heavily. Lotto insists to her companions that she is telling the truth.
A student notes that Oknoti predicted the blackout and questions how she could have known.
A group of girls loom over Lotto, suggesting she rest and skip meetings while she is in pain. Lotto's fist strikes the dummy with a powerful bang. Lotto sighs in exhaustion, alone in the home. A voice from the shadows asks if it is true. Lotto gasps as a dark silhouette with glowing eyes looms behind her. Startled, Lotto demands to know who the intruder is. A girl in a cat mask asks if the story about Oknoti predicting the blackout is true, while Lotto realizes she is facing an expert fighter. Lotto grits her teeth in a defensive stance. The cat mask girl nods and says she believes her because she saw it herself. A flashback reveals Okniti's blade energy was precisely aimed to sever her opponent's leg. The masked girl mocks the Foundation scholars as small fry before turning away. Oknoti appears vibrant and distinct from her surroundings. A mysterious voice warns Lotto to keep quiet about their encounter.
Lotto asks if the masked stranger is trying to threaten her.
The masked girl coldly claims she would simply eliminate her instead. Lotto stands frozen as the masked girl turns to depart.
The intruder warns Lotto not to cross the powerful organization behind the blackout. With a final parting word, the masked girl vanishes. Lotto collapses in despair, crushed by her family's high expectations.
Lotto clenches her fist, feeling her reputation slipping away.
Trembling with resentment, Lotto laments that her status is meaningless. Visions of Akhnodi and Hestia haunt Lotto's bitter thoughts.
Lotto reflects on Hestia's intervention and the masked girl's warner.
Kneeling alone, Lotto despairs of ever surpassing her rivals. A soft sound marks Lotto's resolve shifting.
Lotto decides to give up her pursuit of Gory.
The day of the grand entrance ceremony arrives.
Orientation ends as students gather for the ceremony.
Students gossip about Oknodi's popularity and her top-tier status. Oknodi finds her sudden fame burdensome and wishes it would end. Giselle notes that Oknodi has become a leader for their group.
Underlying tensions between the student groups remain dangerously high. Oknodi hopes for a period of peace before conflict erupts. Oknodi prepares for the start of her true academy life.
Mysterious men begin taking notes as the ceremony starts.
The students grow uneasy at the sight of the observers.
A rhythmic scratching sound fills the hall as they write.
Oknodi signals for Giselle to remain sere. Whispers spread as students realize they are being evaluated.
A group of students reacts with annoyance to the noise.
The masked girl watches the proceedings from the crowd.
The scribbling stops as a heavy silence falls.
A bright light hurls a powerful presence in the hall. The students are blinded by the sudden radiance. A massive dragon head appears, mocking the students' lack of talent. The students are horrified to see a dragon.
The dragon headmaster declares that slackers will lose points immediately. A collective gasp of horror ripples through the students.
Oknodi encourages Giselle for managing to stay quiet. The dragon headmaster prepares to explain its unusual position.
A man admits his ignorance before the headmaster speaks.
The dragon bluntly states that money is the ultimate answer. A stunned silence follows the headmaster's greedy declaration.
Oknodi and her companion are baffled by the dragon's logic.
The headmaster explains that points are the key to all privileges.
The dragon headmaster notes that gold can be exchanged for points.
Giselle asks if the headmaster is demanding a bribe.
The dragon gleefully admits the academy exists to drain wealth.
The headmaster asserts its rules are above those of mortals.
The ceremony concludes as the headmaster's image fades. Oknodi watches the other students leave with a thoughtful expression.
A narrator notes that the summons event originally included 24 named NPCs.
Oknodi reacts in shock as a dark presence brands her a sticky-fingered brat from the Foundation and warns her not to forget it.
Students in the grand hall murmur among themselves, wondering if the event is finally over.
Her heart gives a sudden, quick thump-thump as she realizes she was chosen as the unexpected 25th student.
Someone grips her wrist tightly with a stern command to wait.
Oknodi panics, sweating as she worries that her theft of the stat stones has been discovered.
A transparent vision of Oknodi screams in distress above the silent academy spires.
The scene shifts to a few days earlier, showing a massive dragon lounging in a palace hallway.
An old man with a long white beard and bald head asks what is being said.
The dragon headmaster asks if the Foundation brat has been running wild, and the old man confirms that is exactly what he witnessed.
The old man describes how the girl has been sneaking into guard posts and the warden's room, even hiding in holes dug by the guard dogs.
A voice explains they were only watching the girl to see if she would adopt to academy life.
The old man lets out a tired sigh sounding. A thud sounds as the dragon headmaster admits he has been keeping a close eye on her as well.
The dragon lets out a quick heh while noting her talent for slipping through magical wards and identifying special ability stones.
The headmaster notes that he is watching the world's greatest thief in the making.
The old man suggests correcting the girl instead of admiring her, but the dragon asks if his faith has deemed the child lost. The old man explains that theft betrays human trust, and he fears she will go from stealing stones to stealing lives, while the dragon asks if it matters, since they were just stones.
A heavy silence falls between the dragon and the old man.
The dragon tells the old man to teach her himself since she is too valuable to lose to the Foundation, leading the elder to acknowledge the headmaster's faith in her potential.
A voice curses the scheming snake from the Foundation. A masked man in a top hat claims he would never have sent the girl to his territory, while the dragon headmaster laughs and warns that losing such talent would be a century-long regret.
The dragon's glowing eye narrows as he commands the other to hold tight and not let the girl slip away. The dragon chillingly vows to personally kill the girl if she ever returns to the Foundation, leaving the old man in stunned silence.
With a quiet bow, the old man acknowledges the order.
A heavy thud echoes through the hall as the old man prepares to depart. The elder resolves to keep the warning in mind.
A sharp beep sounds as a system window informs Oknodi she has lost 10,000 points for unauthorized entry into a restricted zone.
Oknodi touches her wrist and realizes she was caught after all.
Oknodi reflects that while she evaded guard spells and eyes, someone far more powerful must have found her.
Oknody wonders if the penalty was small due to it being her first offense as Isabel calls her name. Isabel informs her it is time to attend their first class.
As the first semester begins, Oknody walks through a bright doorway toward her new life.
A silhouette of students waiting marks the beginning of their glorious first lesson.
Isabel and Oknody walk through a crowded lecture hall filled with whispering students.
A list confirms the advanced division contains 44 students across 3 groups.
Isabel leads Oknody into the classroom.
An orange-haired beastfolk student waves Oknody and Isabel over to their saved seats, while a brown-haired boy asks if the mouse is nervous.
Oknody blushes, noting that they have taken the back row seats typical of delinquent students.
Giselle finds Oknody's shy side adorable, though Oknody insists she isn't actually shy. Giselle hugs the blonde girl tightly and calls her cute, prompting a startled cry from Oknody. Oknody startles as a voice from behind acknowledges her arrival. The blonde boy, Grand Duke Anderson, watches her from his desk.
Oknody laments that she is just a regular freshman as she looks at the imposing Grand Duke Anderson.
As a steady step echoes, Anderson vows to keep watching her while Oknody realizes she has been completely marked by the elite.
Oknody turns in surprise as someone calls out a friendly hello.
Hestia spins a stick and calls her a little one, surprising Oknody. Oknody greets the pirate lady, prompting Hestia to offer a playful protest. With a wink and a grin, Hestia asks the girl to call her big sister instead. Oknody waves cheerfully at Lotto, who offers a brief and cold response. Oknody is surprised as Isabel turns her attention toward the back row. Hestia suggests they will be seeing each other daily, but Oknody bluntly admits she would rather they didn't, prompting the red-haired girl to protest that she is being mean.
A beastfolk girl sits at her desk, quietly licking her hand like a cat.
Hestia looks away nervously, fidgeting with her fingers as a blush creeps across her face. Oknody offers a bright greeting to Hestia, catching the red-haired girl off guard and prompting a startled, enthusiastic response. Hestia clenches her fists with a grin, feeling a surge of joy and determination. Oknody watches Hestia's sudden, happy outburst with a look of pure confusion. A cold tension settles beneath the heated atmosphere as the hostility between student groups continues to worsen. A pink-haired girl with horns asks the saint if she senses anything unusual from Oknody. The blonde saint shakes her head, admitting she is not entirely sure. The saint notes that Oknody hasn't received blessings from any of the 12 deities, much to Oknody's shock.
The pink-haired hero and the blonde saint observe the classroom with serious expressions.
The hero wonders if Oknody's lack of divine blessings indicates a lack of true talent.
Oknody realizes the top-ranked students are evaluating her and silently denies their conclusions. The saint appears bathed in a radiant golden light as she prays with her eyes closed. The saint senses a different kind of divine blessing on Oknody, even if it is not from a known deity. The pink-haired girl reacts with a startled expression to the saint's observation.
The hero suggests Oknody might have been chosen by the same god as the saint, who agrees that the girl would show immense growth if their wavelengths match.
A booming voice announcing its arrival terrifies Oknody and Isabel, leading them to fear the dragon headmaster has appeared. A dark, oppressive aura suddenly fills the room, overwhelming the startled students. A green-haired woman with glasses laughs, revealing she was simply imitating the headmaster's voice. Oknody and Isabel stare blankly at the teacher while a student in the foreground collapses from the shock. The woman introduces herself as Mahabharata, the student director who teaches transformation magic and serves as a dragon guardian.
Mahabharata informs the class that they can find their course registration details on their magic watches.
The professor drops a bombshell by revealing that students must physically run to the classroom of the professor they want.
Mahabharata writes the 3 types of academy courses on the chalkboard with a series of quick clacks.
The director emphasizes that the core courses are mandatory for every student.
Mahabharata warns the students to avoid picking classes solely to convert credits into points.
Oknody is startled as a mysterious hand reaches across her to touch Isabel's notebook.
A handwritten note on the page suggests that electives are a good choice for earning points. Isabel is horrified as the note warns that point deductions could end up being far larger than what is earned. Isabel clutches her head in frustration after the warning, much to Oknody's concern. Narrative text explains the Academy's structure, highlighting the Night and Magic departments. The Adventure, Administration, and Production departments are detailed, noting that top grades require inheriting world-class knowledge.
Mahabharata gives the students 1 hour to finalize their course decisions using their watches.
A heavy thud echoes through the hall as the students begin their deliberations.
Isabel asks Oknody which department she plans to join, though the girl admits she is still thinking about it.
Isabel proudly declares her status as an adventurer with a thumbs up. Isabel pulls Oknody into a tight hug, encouraging the girl to join the adventure department with her. Oknody imagines her future as a veteran adventurer proudly hoisting a glowing treasure chest. Oknody notes she is also considering the night department since she is skilled with a sword. Isabel acts dramatically devastated, asking if Oknody is truly planning to abandon her. Oknody reconsiders as she thinks about the delicious snacks Isabel makes, much to the other girls' disbelief.
Cheers erupt as Isabel cheers Oknody up by handing her a bright, candied apple.
Mahabharata reminds the students that the race to their chosen classrooms is about to begin.
Hestia draws her revolver with a wicked grin, realizing registration is a first-come, first-served competition.
Oknody and her companions look on in shock as Hestia's intense competitiveness takes a dangerous turn.
Hestia heads for the door early, handgun in hand and a plan in motion.
The red-haired girl vows to shoot down anyone who dares to try and get ahead of her. Gunshots ring out and chaos erupts as Hestia begins firing her weapons to clear a path through the terrified crowd.
The brown-haired boy stands up and suggests there is no need to go that far while Isabel and Oknody watch him.
An ape-like beastfolk student roars for everyone to move aside, terrifying Oknody as he prepares to charge. Chaos erupts as students shove ahead. Hestia fires her revolver into the crowd with a wicked grin, ignoring the terrified shouts of those around her.
Two students fly through the air.
He grins at the small fry. Hestia grits her teeth in annoyance.
The beastfolk student easily blocks Hestia's bullets with his bare arms, mocking her for using such toys.
Isabel asks Oknody if they should hurry, but the blonde girl remains calm while holding her snack.
Oknody explains that she wants to avoid point deductions for causing a disturbance, noting that hallway chaos carries heavy penalties.
The hallway is left in ruins. Isabel wonders about starting with an adventure lecture, while Oknody expresses a lack of interest in high-competition classes.
Oknody turns around and asks why a merchant would even care about adventure-themed courses.
The brown-haired boy offers a knowing smile and tells Oknody she is still too young to understand his perspective.
The boy explains that to rip off desperate adventurers, a merchant must understand how they think, leading the girls to label him a devil.
They arrive at the adventure department.
The group finds the introductory courses boring as they look over the list of basic weapon and gear skills.
They note that more advanced dungeon studies are restricted to second years, but the boy mentions a secret trick.
Leveling up allows for skipping raids. Oknody explains that students can skip a year with enough points and credits, though she feels there is no need for it this time.
Culture develops faster than combats goes.
Oknody ponders the importance of divine studies, which are considered the hottest field in imperial culture.
A blonde student mentions a course on using holy arts without faith, sparking Oknody's curiosity.
Several students are excited by the prospect of using holy power without having to rely on a deity.
A stocky student and his friend decide they should register for the holy power course as well.
Oknody watches them leave with a look of disdain, noting that they have no eye for true quality.
A panel reveals a muscular, red-eyed man and warns that the class is actually a brutal physical trial.
Isabel decides to register for the gear quality course, and Oknody is surprised to find they made the same choice.
Oknody is happy to have Isabel in the same class, mentioning she has already mastered these subjects before.
The brown-haired boy decides to join them for the gear quality class, causing the girls to react with visible shock. An empty grand hall stands ready.
Rows of desks fill the classroom. Isabel looks around the room in confusion while Oknody watches her curiously. The brown-haired boy notes that the number of second-year seniors in the room is suspiciously low.
The brown-haired boy addresses a group of older students and asks them for clarification.
The seniors blush and act flattered at being addressed by their title, while the girls watch them with flat expressions.
The seniors' expressions turn to horror when Isabel asks why so few upperclassmen are taking this specific class.
The upperclassmen look away nervously, whistling and pretending to be busy with other things.
Oknody bluntly suggests the course has a bad reputation, causing the seniors to have an extreme and terrified reaction.
The seniors aggressively insist it isn't because of the tough assignments, stingy grades, or the dangerous reputation of the professor.
A blonde senior named Big Stone shouts that they definitely weren't hoping for underclassmen to drag down the grade curve.
Students flee as fear takes hold.
Big Stone frantically denies that the professor was once a heroic thief or that there is any risk of students being treated poorly.
Someone yells at the potion models.
Professor Estrada appears with a sharp look and a hand to her ear, confronting Big Stone about his impure thoughts.
Professor Estrada smirks at the class.
A female senior apologizes for Big Stone, claiming he is stuck in a forced truth state, which he realizes reveals his actual feelings. Professor Estrada tells anyone wanting to leave to do so now, prompting students to whisper about staying because the top scorer is there.
A student corrects the Empire terminology.
A dark-haired student with glowing blue eyes explains that the term empire incorrectly lumps the Eastern and Central empires together.
A student apologizes for lumping the girl with Central Empire jerks while she dismisses the group with a humph.
The boy calls out to Oknody, who realizes that the entire situation has become a complete mess.
Isabel looks around the room worriedly.
Oknody gives a thumbs up and declares that even if the class has a terrible reputation, it will be fun.
Her friends watch Oknody's radiant determination.
A sudden sharp ring sounds, making the students clutch their ears in agony.
Her attention is caught by the quick clack sounds of the professor's name being written on the chalkboard.
The red-haired woman identifies herself as Professor Bronze D. Estrada.
Estrada claims her background as a thief of justice makes her qualified to teach, so the students should rest easy. A student desperately asks for the ringing to stop, but Estrada only acknowledges him as the noise persists.
The professor declares that stopping the noise is the only way for the students to leave her class.
Estrada explains that a heroic thief must move on their own feet and announces they will begin field practice.
Oknoti tugs on her friend's shibs.
Oknoti plugs her ears with focus.
Her friends follow her lead immediately.
The professor states that any student who can find and disable the hidden bell will be allowed to leave.
A thunderous ringing and clang sound fill the hall as Estrada announces the final condition for dismissal.